Tonight we will start with prayer and pledge. I am going to go and I want to ask Pastor Tara Simpson of Daniel's Den to come up and lead us in a word of prayer. For those who would like to pray with us and pray for us, please take part. Pastor Simpson.
Let us all bow. Kind and gracious Father, we thank you, first of all, for this day, God, for this is the day you have made. We should be glad and rejoice in it. God, as we take care of the business for your city on today, we pray that the citizens and the leaders of this town come together in unity, Father, to take care of things that need to be done for your people. We ask, God, may your truth be revealed. May your light shine brighter. May the voice of those most silenced be heard loud and clear. Defend their cause, O God. Through this body on tonight, we pray for wisdom, strength, courage, and understanding, and may we all be in your presence. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Now we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, good evening, everyone. This is a public meeting of the City Council. Audience I'm asking that you remain quiet and refrain from booing, clapping, and anything that might disrupt this meeting. And all council persons, please silence your phones and your computers. Audience, I would ask the same thing of you. Madam Clerk.
I'll start with the roll call. Councilmember Sylvia.
Present.
Councilmember Williams.
Present.
Councilmember Balls is still pre-excused. Mayor Pro Tem Bench.
Present.
Councilmember Ostache.
Present.
Councilmember Garcia.
Present.
Councilmember Flores.
Present.
Councilmember Copeland. Mayor Moore.
Present.
We have 8 members present, 1 absent. You have a quorum.
Do we have any announcements, Madam Clerk?
I do. I have some. Thank you. I want to remind everyone, the City Waste Convenience Station is open the second Saturday of the month from 8 o'clock a.m. until noon. City residents can dispose of large, bulky materials, recyclables, building materials, furniture, trash, etc. The station will be open this Saturday, March 11th. And the next regular council meeting, held on Monday, March 20th, will begin at 12 o'clock noon. The change in time is due to it being Student Government Day. We will have students with us during the meeting from the community. And also, public hearings will be conducted at the April 3rd council meeting regarding the Hancock CSO Basin Rehabilitation and the Sewer River Crossing projects. The plans will be available in the city clerk's office during regular business hours for public viewing. Mayor, we also have on our agenda recognition of the Christmas with Angels organization.
I've got 2 council persons. Councilman Flores requested it. However, Councilwoman Garcia, she sits on the board, and it is no more fitting that she acknowledges it. So she will be reading your recognition.
Showtime. The City of Saginaw Certificate of Recognition. Whereas on behalf of the Saginaw City Council and the citizens of Saginaw, it is an honor and privilege to recognize the hard work and dedication of the Christmas with Angels organization. And whereas Christmas with Angels began almost 7 years ago as merely a dream of 3 local community leaders. A dream to ensure every child in our community is able to experience the gift of Christmas. A special Christmas celebration is organized to bless hundreds of children and their families. And whereas with the successful partnership of volunteers and sponsors, this program has been able to provide the experience of Christmas for over 800 children in the past 6 years. Each year, the donations have been increased, allowing this organization to touch more lives in our community. And whereas in 2022, over $30,000 was raised, doubling the previous year's amount of donations. This allowed 179 children and 74 families to experience the gift of Christmas in 2022. The commitment and generosity of this amazing group of volunteers and sponsors have touched so many hearts and lives throughout our region. This truly is what Christmas is all about. Now therefore, be it resolved, I, Brenda F. Moore, Mayor of the City of Saginaw, on behalf of my fellow council members and the citizens of this community, deem it an honor to recognize the Christmas with Angels organization for their continued dedication and generosity. We hereby extend our appreciation for the powerful impact that has been made in our community and offer our best wishes for many more successful and blessed years in the future. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the sale of the city of Saginaw to be affixed this 6th day of March in the year of our Lord, 2023. Brenda F. Moore, mayors, council members Annie Bench, Mayor Pro Tem, Michael D. Bawes, George Copeland Jr., Michael Flores, Priscilla Garcia, Monique Lamar Silva, Bill Ostage, and Reggie Williams, and Timothy Morales, city manager.
Now, I didn't do it and I apologize. I know it's a bunch of y'all, but can you just bunch up and have a spokesperson say something? And then I need you to come up to us.
Hello. So,
Mr. Allen, can you come up?
you want me to come up there?
Yeah, then I want you to come back and speak. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Please.
You want to pick up your certificate first?
Oh,
Yes.
That's all right, y'all can come. Come on.
Hold on, let me get your picture regardless.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you.
God bless you. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you for all your hard work. Congratulations.
Precious, how are you?
Good to see you. Congratulations and thank you for all you do. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, how you doing?
Congratulations. Thank you.
Oh, how are you?
Thank you so much.
Security of the Angels.
Congratulations and thank you. Thank you so much.
I'll lose my reading.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I should read in church.
Felt like I was in Cambridge.
Okay, now can I get a spokesperson?
Yes, ma'am. On behalf of the group, my name is Elvis Mackel. I have the privilege of leading these fine volunteers over the last 6 years. It's a blessing to be here. We thank God. We thank the city council. We thank Saginaw for being awesome. Born and raised here, it's very, very important that we did our work right here locally, right? So many say, my crisis isn't your crisis, or my emergency isn't your emergency. My children's gift is really not your children's gift. But what if it is? What if it was? What if we all collaborate and utilize our resources and maximize our abilities to help local children in need? So 6 years ago, in a little, I won't even call it conference room, but I'll be brief, in a little lunchroom, leaders came, Hispanic leaders, and they said, well, we have these kids that are not getting gifts. They came downstairs, and I'll just paint a quick picture. Came downstairs, they didn't have a Christmas tree, their family couldn't afford it. So there's no Christmas gifts under the Christmas tree. They go to school when they come back for break. Everybody's talking about how great Christmas is, and they didn't have anything to share. And we stood up and said, well, let's make an impact. Let's raise $3,000 to help 10 families, Hispanic families. I want to make sure that's clear. We want to just help our own at first. But then we noticed real quick on, it wasn't just about Hispanic kids. It wasn't about African-American kids. It wasn't about Chinese kids. It wasn't about Caucasian kids. Kids have no bias, right? They don't have no political agendas. They don't know of everything that's going on in this crazy world of today. So we literally, I'm sorry. I swear I'm off.
I keep telling y'all I need a new phone, so keep on letting me be.
You can get me for that one.
Yeah.
So we all united, and we united with all the resources of the city. We have over the last, over the last 6 years, all the committee members, 90% of them still remain, and we've helped over 863 children locally, right here in Saginaw. And we don't just hand out a gift card, so we don't raise those funds and just hand out a gift card. We have a very committed committee where we select as far as families, then we take them shopping, then we also go the extra mile to make sure we wrap all those gifts. And then we have a big ceremony event because we create the gift of Christmas. And with that, the biggest blessing over the last 6 years is to see all the children right here in our community smile on that day and forget about whatever circumstance may have happened to either their fathers, their mother, their grandchild, or whatever. And we read every application, which that's one of the hardest days of the year, is to read all the applications. I can't say thank you enough to our board and our committee for all your commitments. Thank you for the city of Saginaw. Thank you to all the sponsors, the volunteers. It's been amazing what we're able to accomplish. And this year, we're already claiming it. We're gonna do over 138 children to bring our program to over 1,001 children right here in Saginaw. And it's a blessing. So thank you, Mayor. On behalf of Christmas Angels, it's a blessing to be here. Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Our next order of business is public hearings.
The purpose of a public hearing is for the public to address council as a whole and for council to hear the comments from the speaker regarding a specific action being requested. Speakers must limit their remarks to the subject of the public hearing. Please state your name and say if you are in support or opposed of the subject of the public hearing. The main speaker or the designated representative should speak first, as they are allowed 10 minutes. Every additional member that speaks will be allowed 3 minutes. This is not a question or answered period. Please do not direct any of your comments to any of the council members because we cannot answer you. I used to say the city manager emptied out the room, but I think I'm emptying out the room. What's up?
Okay, Mayor, our public hearing tonight is regarding the 2023-2024 Community Development Block Grant Program, Emergency Solutions Grant Program, the Home Investment Partnership Program. So you need to call for public comment.
Do I have anyone here who would like to speak to this matter?
You'll have 10 minutes, Kane.
You have 10 minutes, not 3, 10.
Good evening. Good evening to Mayor, Council, staff. I am Kana Franklin. I am the Deputy Director of Community Services, and I am here to open the public hearing with an overview of our funding process. We held informational sessions during the summer for all of our programs, CDBG, home, emergency shelter, and CARES funds. Our application window was open for a month. It closed October 21st, 2022. Staff then reviews the applications. There are 3 of us, myself, Leticia Trevino, and Barb Rashi. A list of all eligible applications is compiled and submitted to the Human Planning Commission, Council, and the City Manager. The Human Planning Commission met for 6 nights to interview all eligible applications and make recommendations to the City Manager. The City Manager then reviews and makes its recommendations to Council. That brings us to tonight. This is a mandatory step in the process for us. If you approve the recommendations, we submit our annual plan to HUD. We have to submit to them a detail of every project that we're proposing. Once they approve, we come back to you to approve the individual sub-grantee agreements. We would like to thank any of you guys that participated in those interviews this year. Mayor Moore especially, she attended the most sessions. And we would like to say thank you to our Human Planning Commissioners, Darlene Carpenter, Rollin Carter, Rick Longoria, Suzanne Smokoska, Henry Porterfield Jr., Jim Wagner, Dennis Morrison, Valerie Toney, Deborah Melconian, Eric Braddock, Michael Faust, and Anthony Coca. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this matter? Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this topic? Last and final time. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this topic? Hearing none, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. We are now at public input.
Public input. I need you to remain courteous and respectful for all of the people in the audience. You will be called to the podium by the city clerk. You have 3 minutes to speak, and which will be timed by our city clerk. I'm asking you to please get all of your points in those 3 minutes, please. We will allow a few seconds to wrap up before the 3-minute buzzer goes off. Madam Clerk.
Our first speaker is Rosalind McNichols. Carly Hammond.
Hello, thank you. So today I brought with me a handout. It's 4 pages, and this handout is because I got curious and did some digging and did some research, because I get a lot of announcements from the governor's office. I subscribe to those emails, and over the past 2 years, she has announced time and time and time again awards for grants and tax credits to communities or nonprofits operating within a community for affordable housing development. And I know that housing is something that City of Saginaw residents are very, very interested in, especially housing revitalization and new housing development. And I didn't remember ever seeing Saginaw as a list of those awardees. So I went back and I combed through the press releases and I checked, and it's true that Saginaw has received 0 of these numbers of grants. And I am not sure that if this isn't a matter of public record, I believe, who applies for these grants. I'm not sure if we're putting in applications for these grants. However, there are dozens and dozens, if not over 100 communities who have received these grants that have qualifications, I would say, less than Saginaw, in need less than Saginaw does. And one thing that I know I spoke about several times before about ARPA dollars is that you are able to spend ARPA dollars to hire city staff for things like applying for new grants, not just for program administration for how you guys are doling out grants to nonprofits in your own community, but to hire a grant liaison and pay them well. Get somebody from one of these cities that's getting lots of these grants, because this is the way forward. These monies, the budget surplus that the state of Michigan has, it has and it will continue to be doled out in competitive grant funding. And if Saginaw is not on the list, if we don't have somebody who exclusively is doing this work, we are going to lose out. And I think that a lot of this confusion and long struggle over ARPA dollars, I think it would be benefited from someone in the city government at Saginaw who exclusively did work for grants. A lot of this confusion of nonprofits coming in and asking for requirements for grants, there's a lot of things operating on different levels, a lot of confusion between government dollars and grant dollars and how nonprofits and how municipalities operate. And I think that it is incumbent upon our city to make sure that we are applying for every single opportunity possible, because we have nonprofits in our community who've been working here for a long time who deserve the aid of the city of Saginaw in capturing these funds and capturing these tax credits, because otherwise we're already being outpaced by every single other community that you see on this list. So I appreciate your time. Thank you so much today, and thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Kevin Jones.
Greetings, Madam Mayor and the distinguished body. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. So last year, I submitted an ARPA proposal to identify, build, and or renovate a space for what I call a museum of Black experiences. So at the time, this was a newly proposed cultural institution for Saginaw, Michigan. Its mission to promote, support, and incubate Black artists, and histories that they represent and inspire. The proposal also sought assistance in developing a MUSB as an independent nonprofit organization with the necessary funding to produce 8 exhibits that prominently feature local artists and residents. And since submitting that application, I'm happy to report that I've purchased a building at 1243 South Jefferson Avenue here in Saginaw as a home for a MUSB. This building is very special. I actually love it. It was built as a lumber baron's home and has received a lot of love over the past 175 years. I'm also happy to report that we've become a recognized 501c3 nonprofit organization with an invested board of directors and an advisory council. So why am I here? I'm here to let you know that a MUSB is critical to our region. So it will create greater exposure and visibility to arts and artists, inspire curiosity and value, and provide opportunities for teachers and students, parents and children to learn together. Through its relevant programming, it will foster alliance building across social identities of race, sexual orientation, and gender identity. A MUSB as a state-of-the-art cultural space will support volunteer opportunities and provide an exemplary visitor experience. A MUSB will also serve as a community destination stop, a top tourist attraction to the region, and will bring the world to Saginaw. We think it will be incredible to open a MUSB during the week of Juneteenth, 2023. In order to do so, we know that we need to build a parking lot with about 15 to 25 spaces, add a new bathroom and a ramp, just to ensure that all of our visitors can enjoy the offerings. These changes will hopefully help us receive the approval for rezoning the space for use as a museum. So now, while I'm prepared to invest the last of my savings and retirement to see this dream happen, I'm also actively fundraising for the necessary costs, as well as the necessary resources for those types of interactive and engaging exhibits that we deserve to experience here in Saginaw. It's my hope that I can count on each of you to spread the word about a MUSB. I hope that you will join us during our opening celebrations, and also that you'll be able to come out and check out some of the amazing items that we have, including something that we recently acquired, which is an 1822 bill of sale for a Negro girl slave about the age of 12 years. So we'll have very impactful items that we deserve to have here in Saginaw. So thank you all very much for all that you do.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Next is Ralph Martin.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Madam Mayor, City Council, City Manager. My name is Ralph Martin, 1215 Carroll Street, Saginaw, Michigan, 6N Carroll. I'm here on behalf of the Saginaw African Cultural Festival, the longest running festival in the country at this time, continuously running. This year would be our 55th year on the Morley grounds, or before that we were over at Long Street and over at St. Rita's. So now we're just trying to make sure that we are being considered when you guys are going into your last phase of this ARPA funds. We were impacted by the pandemic, and we could use a little boost and some support. Things did change on our parts. We're looking forward to continuing our serving the city of Saginaw. We try to have a very, very family-friendly, safe environment, and every year we've been pretty successful at doing so. Our youth activity is second to none. We have STEM going to be involved as we had last year. That was very, very attractive to a lot of the young students. And also, we just had a lot of abilities for senior citizens and those with special needs with our golf carts and that to get around and make sure that they're able to enjoy the festival as well. The shirt that I'm wearing is from one of our chief elders, Charles McNair. One of his big sayings was "me and you." Charles McNair pulled me in about 20 years ago when he would come to the fire department in February to make sure that safety house was out there in August. He was that persistence, just got me involved and got me in just to know that this guy is probably somebody that was really cared about this community. And if you could read this shirt, it reads love and respect to all people, promote music, drama, and theater, building communities, keep African culture alive. Education is the key. That's why we have that STEM program. Economic power, empowerment, and many of the businesses that come out and do their vendoring go on to make on their own businesses after being part of the African Cultural Festival. And the last one that I really love, I challenge you to be consistent. 55 years. 55 years. We've always did very good auditing of our funds. We worked hard. We have a lot of people that have sponsors that supported us. We want to just keep on letting the city know that we are here to keep this wonderful city going well. I think with a little more help from the city, and just keep us considered when you do the last distribution of some of that ARPA funds. Keep the Saginaw African Cultural Festival in your mind. We won't let you down. And you all know that we do our 5Ks. We're involved with chess programs out there every Thursday. And thank you for your time, and God bless.
Thank you.
Next, we have Vicki Hill.
Madam Mayor, council people, thank you so much for giving me this space. Today, what I want to talk about is Women of Colors. Women of Colors was organized in 1993. So this year is going to be our 30th year. I'm here to talk about the 30th anniversary. I believe you all have flyers as they were passed out. All right, so this year we are doing a big celebration. The celebration will take place on April the 15th. It's going to be held at Rita Southern Soul Cafe. As you know, Women of Colors has become that household name. We are in our community constantly doing something in our community. We've been serving this community without any interruptions whatsoever. So Women of Colors is celebrating on April the 15th. It begins at 6 o'clock, and I am inviting all council. Mayor Moore will be our MC for the night, but I'm inviting all council to come out and be a part of this celebration as well. We are also doing an ad booklet, so I do have dinner tickets if you'd like to buy them. They are $50 a ticket, 2 for $75, or place an ad in our booklet. Women of Colors is run by fundraising primarily, and some grants as well, but primarily by fundraising. Women of Colors has done so much in this community, from mentoring the youth to taking care of the kids at wintertime and providing winter coats for those who cannot afford to buy those winter coats, to our forums where we talk about difficult subjects such as suicide prevention, such as drug and alcohol prevention, such as mental health, depression. We touch on every subject you can imagine lately, and we are continuing to work in our community. We are glad to be here. We are glad to serve our community. So I am just asking you all to please be a part of that celebration for us on the 30th, on our 30th year on April the 15th at Rita Southern Soul, located at 110 North Washington Street. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Hurley Coleman.
It's two of them. Which one?
The one that signed up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening to our mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, city manager, city council members, and all those who are in attendance tonight and listening online. We bring you greetings from Saginaw County Community Action, where I serve as the executive director. And standing right next to me is our deputy director, Ms. Mary McMath, who has contributed over 40 years of service to the agency. So we're here. Our agency is changing lives in the county since 1965, helping to create self-sufficient citizens in Saginaw County. Our agency is one of 28 CAAs in the state of Michigan and one of 1,000 in America. I consider this agency to be an essential pillar in this community, one that provides and delivers social services to those in low income to moderate income populations in the city of Saginaw and Saginaw County. We have provided services throughout the pandemic, continue to deliver these services up until this point. In fact, between 2020 to 2022, our program operational budgets tripled as the needs of those living in the city and the county increased with assistance with emergency services. If it had not been for CAC, who would have done this work? What would we do if we were not around? I'm thankful for my staff, who some of them are here today, who have worked hard to ensure that clients are not left behind. Members of our staff have taken reduced hours to accommodate for decrease in donations, the decline in corporate sponsorships, the decline in corporate partnerships, and all the uncertainties that our funders who can pull funding at any time, whenever they so choose. These ARPA funds could create an extraordinary opportunity for us to help sustain our agency and create a resurgence in our ability to quickly act and respond to the city's residents' needs. It requires a strong team with great financial support to accomplish that. Saginaw CAC has been an absolute force in this community, dispensing nearly $2 million in annual programs and services that directly impact city residents. While our abilities to generate additional cash flow has decreased, there is no doubt in my mind that we are still the last option in people's lives. We are still sometimes their only hope when a bill needs to be paid, when a family is displaced from their home, when they're out of money and diapers, when there's no food in the house. CAC has continued to be that consistent, reliable partner that you can depend on to help with water bills, payments, or anything else that these people may need. What happens if CAC doesn't get the support needed from its state partners? We avoided a major crisis last week. If it were not for the help of some very powerful leaders who oversee our region, our agency could have been looking at a possible shutdown. Thank you, Representative O'Neill, Amos O'Neill of the 94th District, for fighting for us when we could not. Now I'm calling on City Council to help fight for us right now. I'm advocating for our agency.
Motion to extend the speaker's time by 45 seconds.
Can we just let him finish his statement?
Second. I didn't hear, wait. What was your question?
So can we just let him finish his statement instead of interrupting him?
Right.
Doesn't the timer do that?
Madam Clerk, there was a motion in the second, and then it was asked, could he just finish his statement because he may not need the extra 25 seconds?
It could, but now you have a motion before the council.
Okay, we
so
have a
it belongs
motion
to
before the
everyone
council.
now.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
No.
No.
Need a roll call vote, Mayor?
Pardon me?
You need a roll call vote.
Yes, I need a roll call vote.
Councilmember Flores.
Yes.
Councilmember Copeland. Yes. Councilmember Sylvia.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams. Mayor Pro Tem Bench.
No.
Councilmember Ostache.
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Nay. That's okay. You
We have
get,
5
yeah,
to 3. Motion is approved.
the
to
motion was
extend.
moved. We need to wait for the clerk to reset her timing.
That was 45 seconds?
Yes.
Ready?
Thank you, Council. I'm advocating for my agency to have an opportunity to bring stability to our operational budget, especially after the after effects of the pandemic. I trust that the City Council will make the right decisions concerning our budget at the hardest hit agencies, not only just us, but all around the city. Saginaw CAC is a small but mighty agency doing the hard work for the people who need it most. I'm counting on you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Eric Eggleston.
Council, folks in the chamber, those watching at home, city employees, to my staff, president of my board and our accounting agency. I thank you all. I won't be before you long. You all have received packets just so YDC have an opportunity to clear some air that after the report came out in reference to a possible payback of funds based on a report that I submitted. So once you get a chance, if you look directly at finding 12, what you will find
to the third from the back, it literally says on finding 12, unsupported expenditures charged to the grant. Then it says question costs, $1,463,451.24. But it says expenditures reported to the ETA 9130 for quarter ending 12/31 of 2021. Then under those actions, you will always see the corrective action. And as you see, YDC has taken the corrective actions for all of those findings. You have a copy. That second packet is every one of our corrective actions that we have taken as it relates to issues. With us being transparent in what we do, we've always said YDC doesn't care what the monitoring piece is. You can do us daily, you can do us weekly, you can do us annually. It doesn't matter to us because we have the systems in place. The most disturbing thing about the report was there's a corrective action plan that's part of the information that I submitted. And you also have what was submitted. There is no final ruling yet because we're not done with our grant. And I think everyone here with just common sense would know that if the Department of Labor was going to shut you down or stop you from funding, they wouldn't wait till the last 30 days on something that says in 2031. They just wouldn't do that to us. So I just want to clear up that air to let everyone know YDC has met all its benchmarks. YDC is one of the best youth build programs in the country out of 242. YDC here in Saginaw is the only organization in the country that have multiple grants in multiple states for the max amount. And we were funded $1.5 million. So for someone to say, I'm in jeopardy of paying back that amount, I think we just need to take a look at it. You have the information in front of you. If you have any questions, we're always available. Please enjoy your packet. And last, one of those packets had an envelope that was for Reggie, because I gave you my word. Anything that you find that I did not say, you may read that letter of resignation of myself, because I will not operate in that capacity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is County Commissioner Sheldon Matthews.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Mayor
Good
Moore,
evening.
Pro Tem, Councilman, City Manager Tim. I come before you guys to ask that this board does not vote on trying to remove your city manager. I just come before you guys and wanted to say that on record that we heard that they were looking at trying to remove your city manager. Been here since 2009, and it did an excellent job. So I just want to put that on record that we don't go that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Robert Bellman.
I'm a little shorter than Sheldon.
Yes, yes.
Good evening, Mayor Moore, Mayor Pro Tem Bench, and City Council members. I am Robert Bellman. I'm the County Controller, Chief Administrative Officer for the County of Saginaw. I'm also a colleague to City Manager Tim Morales. As a fellow manager, I know firsthand how important it is for City Manager Morales and his management team to offer professional advice to you on actions and issues you are being asked to approve or directions you desire to go. Our role as professional managers is not to hinder progress, but to ensure progress is not hindered through violation of federal and state laws and regulations. The American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to transform our communities by addressing capital and programmatic needs with long-term return on this investment. You know firsthand how many individuals have contacted you and offered ideas on how to spend the $54 million ARPA award in your community. Most of these residents do not have the insights and the information you have as elected officials on how those ARPA dollars can be spent. These ARPA dollars came with a great deal of strings in the form of regulations. It is extremely complicated. U.S. Department of Treasury continuously change its reporting requirements to ensure these funds are being spent consistent with the Act, so to avoid Treasury requesting reimbursement of ineligible funding. You, as the elected body, has the final decision to deploy these ARPA funds as you see appropriate. You also have the fiduciary responsibility and the legal obligations to ensure the city of Saginaw spends these ARPA dollars in accordance with the law. You have a difficult task of balancing the demands of your constituents with the long-term best interests of the city, all within the applicable federal laws. I encourage you not to direct your frustration regarding ARPA regulations and the processes at your city manager and staff. Mr. Morales is here to support you in your collective decisions. Mr. Morales has successfully cultivated partnerships with developers, investors, and neighboring municipalities to enhance the quality of life in the city of Saginaw. It is our trust in him that continues to evolve these partnerships and in turn improve the city.
Motion to extend the speaker's time by 45 seconds.
Second.
It's been moved to second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Nay. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Copeland.
Yes.
Councilmember Sylvia.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Nay.
Mayor Pro Tem Bench.
Nope.
Councilmember Ostash.
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia.
Yes.
Councilmember Flores.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Nay.
We have 5 yes and 3 nay. The motion is approved.
Thank you. In conclusion, I hope you continue to move the city of Saginaw forward with City Manager Morales at the helm. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me this evening. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Herb Spence. Oops. Herb, give me a moment to reset my time, please,
Certainly.
for Mr. Spence. Okay, I'm ready when you are.
Okay, thank you. Herb Spence, 49 Benton Road. My residence, our family company has also had a business right here in the city of Saginaw for 130 years as of this year. And certainly pleased to be able to continue that legacy. I want to thank all of you, first of all, for your service to our community. I know it's a very tough job, and I think that while the ARPA funds have been a great blessing for so many communities across our country, they also have made your job a lot tougher. And because a lot of people have a lot of great ideas, and worthy organizations throughout every community, including ours, have great ideas and great uses for this once-in-a-lifetime money. And I know that it's tough to balance things you may be more aware of and familiar with some that you may not be, and some that are, could potentially, cause a transformational impact on the future of our great city and our entire region, quite honestly. I would like to say that we all know probably very familiar with and are passionate about some of these organizations. I happen to be on the Boys and Girls Club Board of Directors for the last dozen years or so. I know what great work they do. I know what great work other organizations do as well with kids. Very important. Very, very blessed to, if we receive money, that's awesome. But I also want you to know that what the group thinks is in the very best interest of the entire city and surrounding community. That's what we really should do. And I know that's on your shoulders. I also know that you've got a tremendous process that has been set up. I've been watching it and seen a lot of great people that I have a lot of respect for be giving input into that process, helping hear all the requests that are out there and seeing that. But I also know that we're blessed with a great leader in the city of Saginaw with Manager Morales. Been around for way too many years in this community, as my gray hair may let you know, but I have never seen a more professional city manager in my days. And I do believe that he has done a tremendous job stabilizing our city and stabilizing and starting to grow our city. And we've all been set back a little bit with COVID, but we have made tremendous strides in this community, thanks to the city council, thanks to Manager Morales and all of his great staff here at the city. There's a lot of good work being done. I'd hate to go back on that. I'd like to thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our final speaker tonight is Pete Shaheen.
Good evening. Good evening, Madam Mayor.
Good evening.
Good evening, council members. It's an honor to be in front of you today. First, I would like to thank each and every one of you for your service to the great city of Saginaw, Michigan. It's a tough job. We very much respect your commitment, your time, the sacrifices that you make. And I'm here today to do two things. One, our company, Shaheen Development, is headquartered on 1100 South Washington Avenue. We've worked in the city of Saginaw for almost 25 plus years and been integral in some of the work that's been done in the city, working very closely along with city councils of the past and other great leaders. I want to tell you that in our line of work, we do business and work with municipalities all over the Great Lakes Bay region, Bay City, Midland, Saginaw Township. We work with municipalities outside of the state of Michigan in states like Florida and Colorado. And I want to share with you that you should be extremely proud of the way the city of Saginaw is run. The city staff does an outstanding job. They're the best in the business, and we work with municipal organizations all over the region. The credit goes to outstanding leadership by our mayor, great representation by our city council members, but most importantly to the great work that our city staff does every single day. And too many times you hear complaints and criticisms, but you don't always hear the compliments. And the reason why I believe the city is running so well today is because of the exceptional leadership that we have by City Manager Tim Morales. In my experience of working in the city of Saginaw over 25 plus years, the current city staff and the current city government is the best that I've ever had the privilege of working with. Compliments to you, Mayor Moore. Your passion, your commitment, your leadership is wonderful. We can't thank you enough for your leadership. All of the other council members, thank you for making the sacrifice to serve our community. And I want to compliment our city manager and our city staff who do an outstanding job. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, we are now at council remarks.
And tonight we will begin with Councilwoman Garcia.
Good evening. Thank you for all who gave your input, your concerns, and your gratification for the council. Also, Christmas with Angels, can't thank them enough, part of a good board with them. Also, want to say, nice meeting Mr. Coleman. I worked at Saginaw CAC for 5 years at the Senior Outreach Program. So I know all the great things that take place there at CAC, the commodities, the events for the seniors. So, thank you for sharing and your concerns that there's still funding needed there. Also, the Cesar Chavez Luncheon, don't forget, the 18th annual, Friday, March 31st, from 11:30 to 1:30. And the tickets are $35 at the Bagley Hall. So I do post my community alerts on my Facebook page for my concerned citizens. And also just want to give a birthday shout out to my niece that turned 2 Saturday. And this Thursday, my baby girl will be 22, Acela Cantu, and she's moving in the city on her birthday. So I'm welcoming her, that she'll be in the city of Saginaw with her mom. But not by my house, but close. Not too close, but she'll be near and dear. Yeah, right. Yeah, and then I just want to say, thanks for those who talked about, Mr. Morales. I came on council in November, and I've heard nothing but great things, and I know firsthand that, you know, he's a great city manager. I've always heard good things, so it's kind of shocking to hear tonight what was said, because I'm like, that's the first I heard, and like I said, Tim's great. I've worked with him, and as far as I know, I don't have any problems with him. He's doing a great job, a great leader, and thank you for helping me be, you know, productive in my role, being new to council. So just want to say 2 months to Cinco de Mayo. If anybody wants to put their organizations in for a float or any political or anything, there is applications at the Union Civica Mexicana. So if you want to be part of that and walk in with maybe your organization, or if you own a business or that, it's one of the largest parades in the state of Michigan for Cinco de Mayo. And I will be walking with my family, celebrating our roots as the city council, first Latina in the parade. So we are accepting candy donations. If you guys are willing to, I can pick them up. So thank you and have a blessed night, and thanks for everybody who came. Get home safe.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilman Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, Saginaw. So thank you so much to the Christmas with Angels organization for coming to be recognized. We put in that proclamation request back in January. We know it's a little bit off season, but we're hoping that everybody here in the room make sure that their next year's mission is possible. So please donate. It's an amazing organization that does amazing things. I've seen many council members, Councilman Copeland, Councilman Ostash, Councilwoman Garcia, the mayor, all at this opening, and it's a very special thing when there are kids that we know are less fortunate come and get gifts, right? I had the opportunity to talk with another kid after, and I was like, what do you really want? He's like, I want this kind of video game. So you know that there's like a need there, but they fill in the gap of being appreciated, which I think the city does a good job in general of doing. Yeah, there was a shooting on Durant Street, so I'm probably like 50 yards away from that. I was playing a video game, actually. My son was away in Waterford, and I heard the shots. You know, I didn't call the police, so I apologize to the community for that. There have been many times when I've been on walks where I did hear gunshots, and I did call the police. I really have to reflect on why I didn't, because when Elvis had come and said, what if everybody's emergencies were our emergencies, that really kind of hit home. So if we all kind of do better, especially me as a leader, I'm very sad that there have been 2 young individuals that were shot. I got to do some kind of deep reflection on why I didn't call right away. But if you do have any information, please call the Saginaw Major Crime Unit, 989-578-2059. Or if you want to leave an anonymous tip, it's 1-800-422-5245. I echo the either concerns or shock from Councilwoman Garcia that there are members on the board or council that are talking about possibly terminating our city manager. You know, we have questions, and it's okay to have questions and open dialogue and civil disobedience in the terms of what we're allowed to, but to kind of go straight to he's not doing what we want, so we need to let him go. I find that troublesome. I agree with him probably 92% of the time, unless it's a Michigan State thing. So, yeah, you're doing a great job. I think there's a hypersensitivity sometimes to the way that we conduct business here. But that's it.
If you want to know, there is no extension.
Yeah, we can do it up here.
He could use
Not
my
45
seconds
extra
that I have.
seconds. They have 3 minutes. Next, we have Councilman Copeland.
Happy Women's History Month. I want to start off with a quote from Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. As women achieve power, the barriers will fall. As society sees what women can do, as women see what women can do, there will be more women out there doing things, and we'll all be better off for it. And I agree with that. International Women's Day is March 8th. So wherever you are, find a woman, give her a fist bump or buy her coffee, give her something. She deserves it, all right? I want to say thank you to our public speakers who are here this evening, who shared with us this evening. I'm looking forward to our meeting of what we're going to discuss. And I hope during our manager comments, we can get notice of what's going on, because as I don't like being surprised, and I feel surprised tonight about conversations regarding the removal of our manager after I just was working with our manager today. And that doesn't look good, because that's going to the public, and the look on our faces right now this was our first time hearing it. So I hope later on during your comments, wherever this is coming from, I don't like drama, I don't like gossip. Let's get to the root of this. So I thank our speakers who came to speak for our manager, but I want to get down to the root of this, and let's address this today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilwoman Sylvia.
Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to all of our speakers this evening. I'd like to say thank you for everyone that showed up to the Saginaw City Council, because you chose to come here. I invited a lot of people. I put it on my Facebook page. Come to City Council. I'm going to tell you one reason I did it is that, you might go in the grocery store and you're running in and running out. I had 1 loaf of bread, and I think I took almost an hour. Just stopping, people want to stop and talk. But you got to remember, sometimes we just don't have that long a time. If I see, and I guess I'm kind of known, I don't know, but I talked about 6 different people. I was like, come to City Council, come see what we do, come voice your opinion, etc. So I still would like to say thank you so very much, and I talk to many as I can, as much as I can. But also I'd like to say that congratulations to my niece, Janae Lamar, for her appointment to the magistrate for the county of Saginaw. They couldn't have chosen a better person, and I'm happy and sad, because now she's not an attorney anymore. And I'm like, dang, But I'm so happy. I know her mom's looking and having smiling down. And today, this month being Women's History Month, I'm talking fast, I'd like to say recognize our first female mayor, Wilma Ham Jones McZee, and also the Queen Mother of Saginaw, my mother, missionary Patricia Lamar, Queen out of Tutu. Also, there's been a whole lot of talk in regards to an incident that happened with the Michigan State Police in September. It took me a minute to watch that video. It took me several minutes to watch that. But I would like to say I have met with our chief of police and got some insight on that. That police officer is no longer at work. He's off without pay. And if you saw that video, you know why he's off without pay. The person over them is not playing. And that's sending a notice out. They will not tolerate abuse of power. Also, our chief of police, one of their own had to be fired because they did not stick to the rules. So if you have a problem, talk. I know for a fact, I don't know if I get on your nerves or not, but I call and talk, and it's an open door policy. Learn to get together with your law enforcement. It's not all what you think, and everyone is not bad. And they're weeding out those that are, believe me. So thank you very much. You have a great day.
Next, we have Councilman Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. First, I want to say thank you to our public speakers, and I want to, for true transparency, Brother Coleman, I'm voting no from here on out on extending time. And the reason being is because this is a regular meeting of City Council. And if you know me, when I'm in a meeting, I like to get to the point. I like to handle business, get in, get out. So I think 3 minutes is a great amount of time for us to come up, get our points out. And if you need more than that, we're hoping that we can, if you get 5-10 seconds to extend your statement, great. But we have to get out of here. And I don't mean that in a selfish way. I mean that it's business. It is business. Second thing, I don't know what's going on, like Councilman Copeland said with the city manager, but you have 100% confidence from me. So I don't have no idea, and it is a true surprise, but I like you.
Business, keep it business.
That's business. I like it. The last thing that I would like to say is that I really want to caution my fellow councilmen and women on how we handle ourselves away from this table when we speak about one another, especially in public. We are supposed to be a team. And when we are in public and we do interviews or if we're in meetings or whatnot, and in those moments we separate ourselves from each other, we're no longer a team. And that is considered grandstanding. That is considered a selfish agenda. And it needs to stop. It needs to stop. There's no place for that in this type of setting. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Next we have Next we have Councilman Ostache.
Thanks, Mayor. I know I would go way over my 3 minutes tonight, but first I do want to make, it's 3 minutes. But first I do want to make sure that everybody knows that there is a driver's license restoration event coming up. It's going to be at the SVRC Marketplace. That is going to be Wednesday, March 8th. It's going to be at 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. at night. So that's a good event that's coming up and well-deserved and needed for in our community. Thank you for all of our public speakers that came out tonight, especially the organization that put together Christmas with Angels. I had heard about it a few years ago from a friend of mine. He was like a brother to me, and he passed away last year. But Andy Kostrova and his wife, his mother, Irma, actually were involved with the organization. So now I know what it's about, and then I actually found out through the process that Elvis is actually Andy's cousin. So I thought that was kind of neat. So I know Andy and Irma are watching down tonight and probably smiling on this recognition that they well deserve for this organization. I too am kind of taken aback by the remarks of our city manager. I mean, I do hear frustration in the community. There's always going to be frustration in the community. And I was just recently at an event where an individual just yelled out. And you're like, how do we get a city manager? So I actually explained the history of Mr. Morales and how he became to our city manager. And I said it actually took place under Darnell Early. It goes all the way back to that point where there was a study that was done and he was appointed the assistant city manager at the time. And that was through a study by Plant Moran when Darnell Early went through and made a lot of changes. And then Darnell went off and then, of course, and the city manager was brought in by the council back then. So I think he is doing a great job. A lot of people they had asked me if he could be a little bit more visible, but maybe that could be an invitation from a radio station or something, I'm not sure. But he does have a lot of good ideas, and every time I have called this gentleman, he is there for me. He answers my questions, whether it's a phone call, he does get back with me later on that day. I know he's a busy man. So I do wanna give you that support, and I do support you in the community, even when people do disagree. I try to make them see another angle at things, that it's a tough job. And our city staff, what you do with the limited resources that we have in this city is great. And when I hear people say that maybe we need a visionary, we got 9 people up here listening to the city. I think we could be part of that vision, and I know that you're always listening to me when I bring those visions to you. So I really wanna nail that home tonight. So thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Next we have Mayor Pro Tem. And Councilwoman Bench.
Thank you very much. I guess I'll start with, I appreciate everybody here tonight and all their comments. Definitely want to thank the Human Planning Commission for all their work with our Black Grant dollars. Congratulations and thank you to both Women of Colors and Christmas with Angels, just on their recognition here tonight and all the wonderful work that they do, and Women of Color celebrating their 30 years. Mr. Jones, you're back there still. I'm so excited. I am so excited for you, and anything I can do personally to help support, I am there for you. And Mr. Ralph, of course, the African Cultural Festival has not, you are on our radar, and we remember you and appreciate everything you guys do. As far as the city manager goes, I'm not 100% sure where our public speakers came from, other than earnestly from their hearts, I'm assuming, but I would agree with them wholeheartedly, and I would agree with Councilman Williams, who I would remind everyone once worked as a city employee. So he's seen what it's like internally as an employee, and now he is sitting on the council as one of the 9 people who oversee that same manager, who is his boss ultimately. So I think that speaks volumes, number one, that we have a council member here who can say that, but having worked with the previous city manager, I can say what a night and day difference we have. One of our staff members said in the 2 weeks that it took from the one to leave and the other one to take over, it was like a cloud of darkness lifted. And I don't really care, if that hurts someone's feelings or not, but we've consistently heard from our staff members what a wonderful manager we have. He has a very difficult job. He is kind of the secret man behind the curtain for a lot of people because he has a job to do. He runs the day-to-day operations of the city. So it's our job to be out there facilitating those relationships between him and the citizens and the staff and the citizens. But one of the hallmarks of a good leader is surrounding themselves with a good team. And we have kept and retained and hired some of the most talented people you could possibly find. And they do amazing things with very limited resources, and I sit back and I think about what our staff would be able to do if we actually funded local government properly, consistently. They'd be able to do some wonderful, wonderful things. So, Mr. Manager, you have beyond 100% of my support, and I appreciate everybody being here to say nice things for him. And the other thing I want to mention really quick is that the MAC, the Mexican American Center, is having an event on Saturday, April 29th from 1 to 4 p.m. It's called Chances, Choices, and Change. It's going to be at Thompson Middle School, and it's going to feature community resources, mental health workshops, health screenings, and all sorts of other wonderful things. So if you can put that on your calendar and attend, they'd appreciate it.
By the time it gets to me, you've heard everything. First of all, I'd like to thank all of our public speakers. I know what it is to be in the fire. So when you hear and you want to say what you want to say, be careful. There's a difference in a leader and there's a difference in a servant. I'm a servant. I don't care anything about this title. The title is not who I am. It does not define me. What defines me is me doing what's best for this city. I've been real quiet and still, not saying anything. Half of it is because there's nothing to say. We put people into positions that we say that will do stuff in our best interest. Is that not why you voted for me? If you voted for me and you trust me then, trust me now. I don't talk about all the stuff I do if you only knew. I do so much in the community, it's not about bragging, boasting, it's about giving back. If you gotta talk about it, then it wasn't worth doing to me. But if I just do it and stay under the radar, it's not about glory for me. Mr. Morales, the individuals who spoke tonight, it wasn't by no mistake. There's rumor in the community that there's a group or whoever wants to do what they want to do because you don't get your way. My job was, I was put here to make sure that stuff was done decent and in order. I'm sorry that you don't want it done decent and in order. However, it's probably only about 30, 40 of you, and I still got over 4,800 people who depend on the decisions that come from this table. No, we're not gonna always make the right decisions, but we try to do the best we can. I wish I had a magic wand and I could give everybody money that put their names in. However, I don't. But I do have this for you. Hold on. Help is on the way. There's plenty of money. But why keep going to get money when every time we come back with money, we fight? I don't want to fight with you guys anymore. I'm done fighting. I'm done. But those who think they know everything, let me tell you a secret. You don't. Community people who don't know the true answers, why don't you ask us? Talk to me, not at me. I don't do Facebook. So when you, thank God. Madam Clerk.
Mayor, we are now at reports from the manager.
Mr. Morales, and you know you have my support. Let me sneak that in.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor, and I don't have any information for you because I don't know anything about this either. First I heard of it, someone contacted me today. So, but I do appreciate the support of council. I like you guys too, and enjoy. I like my job at the city. I mean, I wouldn't have been here since 2009 if I didn't, but I know there are always rumors and there are always people that aren't happy, and you have to have thick skin if you do this job, and you all do as well. I've been chewed out worse by an 80-year-old lady on our street that doesn't like the potholes, so you're not gonna, I'm not gonna get my feelings hurt or anything, but I appreciate your support, and the people who did come tonight, who did sign up, Mr. Bellman, the county administrator, and County Commissioner Sheldon Matthews, I think that's something we've worked very hard to is to cultivate those relationships with our other government units in Saginaw County as well as the school district, because we do all need to work together. So I appreciate them coming and speaking tonight too, and Mr. Spence and Mr. Shaheen. They are visible, but they do a lot that isn't visible too. So I've worked with them very closely on a lot of projects in the city. And also a lot of the boards and commissions. We do strive to get more people involved because in the past, we've had to go to the same people over and over for donations and to serve on committees and commissions, and those two have done a lot for us, so appreciate their comments as well. And I did have, I know we want to get to the presentation by Guidehouse, but I just wanted to update council on two items that we have that are ARPA related as well. The ARPA home program, we're gonna have an update on that in April because that's when we're gonna start our roofing portion of that program. We're gonna have the same open period for that, so we're looking at an update probably the first meeting in April. So that's moving right along. With that relationship, we did mention earlier, we were contacted by Saginaw County, and they want to work with us on that program and put more money into it. I think that will start with the roofing program as well, and that's part of their ARPA. We're still working through that with the county clerk. So far, we have 205 households that are moving through this process with the furnaces, so it's a lot of homes that we've been able to help with that. I think that's one of the best programs we've been able to do, and we'll have a huge impact there. And now that we're going to be working with the county, and we have started working with Consumers Energy as well, so that will help us do more for people. And then the other item is the Saginaw Fairgrounds. We met with several organizations about that. The Housing Commission, we met with the Neighborhood Association, Fairgrounds Neighborhood Association, One Week, One Street, Congressman Kildee's office, the Historic Preservation, Saginaw County Historical Society, who's interested in preserving the gate, and housing, I assume the Housing Commission was there, and I may be leaving someone out, but staff was there as well. But we have a path to move forward with that. I think the consensus is, especially from the Neighborhood Association, to demolish all of the remaining buildings that are on site and remove concrete. The next step for that, the Housing Commission does have to submit documentation to HUD to get approval for that. We were asked if we would assist with that by Congressman Kildee's office, because you have to submit a site plan, revised site plan to HUD. We're willing to help out however we can, provide those resources to the Housing Commission so that we can get that documentation in and the request in as soon as possible. We offered Cassie Zimmerman, our director, and also Bob Golan, our planner, will assist in any way necessary so that we can move that forward and get that project going. And then I do want to thank a lot of the other people who did talk today too. It is good to hear about all these projects. Kevin Jones, I went to his museum when it was in Old Town, so that is a great exhibit if you get a chance. You know, Ralph Martin was our fire marshal for a long time, and I think that the African American Cultural Festival is another one that's a quiet support in the community. They just go out and do their work. And CAC, we know how important they are as well for all of the assistance they've been providing throughout COVID. We fully support them as well, and the other individuals who came to speak. So thank you to everyone who did sign up. And with that, I think we're ready to have Guidehouse come up. The presentation, I believe you all received a copy of their presentation.
Hello, everyone. So I sent a majority of this to City Council about 2 weeks ago, following the last City Council meeting, hoping to shed light, bring clarity to the process and what we're doing. So for transparency's sake, I kind of want to go back through that and then make sure that there are no questions about that that can be answered here. But the first thing I want to do is, I'm actually going to go to my last slide. I wasn't sure how I wanted to do this, but I think this is important. Oh, no, it's not there. There it is. I really want to contextualize what's going on, because I've definitely heard the commentary of we need to get the funds out immediately. And I want to contextualize time. So this is a timeline of ARPA funds being released. We've got ARPA passed. Then your green is that committee process. Final allocations happen in January, and we've now just spent the last month doing the subrecipient monitoring process. My point is that that section is the only section of everything that's happened that is required by law. So at any point when someone could have been pounding down the door saying, release the funds, move things faster, this is the one area that if you were to do that, you would be tangling with the law. Whereas everything before this, that is political and not regulatory. And so I just wanted to split those two out and make sure you have the context of where we are, where we're going, where we are right now, and how important this moment is to dot I's and cross T's. So any questions with that slide?
What law are you citing?
So this is going to be 2 CFR 200 uniform guidance. It's the first part of every single resolution that was passed on the 13th. The first line. Mm-hmm. And that is encompassed by all subrecipient monitoring and handling of federal funds as a whole group.
So just the risk analysis.
I need to recognize you,
Yeah,
Councilman Flores.
Can I be recognized, please?
You may continue.
Thank you. So this is just for the risk assessment portion of it?
The subrecipient monitoring?
Yes.
It starts following allocation through final disbursement of funds. So for some projects, that'll go to the end of 2026. Some projects we may be done in a few months. It all depends.
Okay. And so it is the risk assessment portion of it.
Risk assessment and monitoring plan and everything that goes with that.
And is that equal for all?
Mr. Flores, you know we only get 2 questions at a time, sir,
No, I didn't. Okay, I can wait for my next question.
okay? And why don't we let him get through a little more?
Sure.
So we can understand.
I do it, and I can't go through all those slides that I showed earlier that might answer some of
Okay.
these as well.
My
Councilman
question pertains-
Copeland, you wanted to say something?
Yes, mine pertains solely to this. So the one that is required by law, the risk assessment which we received the rubric, which we received those list of questions that those who were interested in receiving money had to answer. Where we have everything that is not required by law, at any time what is required, could it have been introduced during any of those times that was not required by law?
Could it have been introduced? So, yes.
Whether that would be on the portal, anything like that? And if so, why wasn't it?
Yes, great question. So, when we got to the committee process, it was a big part of the committee's decision. If you were to put that list out, there would be a lot of organizations that would be scared of being a part of the process and putting their information in. Because what happens is, that list of questions did not stop anyone from getting money. It simply sets the monitoring standard. So the discussion that was had by the committee is, we do not need to create a barrier of entry, even if it is something that is perceived, by creating a more complicated process and putting out terms that people might not understand. And so by creating a process that was more open to everyone, that is why we did not include it in that step of the process.
I asked my 2 questions, so I gotta go to somebody else.
Councilman Ostache.
The only question I had, David, and I think you're probably going to answer it for me, is we all on the council were provided the recipient manual. So the CFR 200 process that you're talking about is everything on the last page, correct?
There are parts of that, yes. So, yes, yes.
Thanks.
That's it.
Councilwoman Sylvia.
Thank you. Just kind of going off of Councilman Copeland. I'm really not understand, I heard what you said, but I'm not understanding when you said people wouldn't understand, and when he asked if this could have been done earlier, and you said it could have been, but then you gave some reasons why. I'm not understanding that simply because, I mean, I get, I'm not you, but it seems like that would have prevented some entities from even making a proposal when they knew, if they would have known in the beginning of the process, it's not gonna happen.
What wouldn't happen?
That they were probably not going to get ARPA funds because of you
wouldn't get
saying they're
ARPA
not
funds?
understanding.
Who wouldn't get ARPA funds?
From what you just said, that's what I'm saying, entity, maybe I misunderstood.
Yep.
Could you just repeat that then?
So that's exactly the concern. What you just said is the concern, is that someone would see that list of questions and go, I'm not gonna get ARPA funds because I'm not gonna answer a question properly. But that's not what's happening. That is not what these questions are answering for us. They're not answering whether or not you can have funds. They're answering, am I gonna monitor you every month or am I gonna monitor you quarterly? Am I gonna audit 50% of your documents or am I gonna audit 5% of your documents? So it's a scope and a scale of monitoring. And if someone, as you just said, and you yourself misunderstood what I said, imagine all the organizations could have misunderstood that and said, well, if I don't have 3 years of audits, I'm not gonna get funds, but that's not true. You still are eligible to get those funds. We just need to audit you closer because you're a higher risk organization because you don't have the history, which is fine.
My second question.
Yes.
So that would mean they just need to be monitored more closely.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yeah. So why don't I go to the beginning?
Okay.
Since I gave a little context of where we are and where we're going. So again, like I said, this was actually created to be read because it was originally sent ahead of time, so I apologize for the wordy slides, but I'm gonna kind of go through these quickly. It's important, the beneficiary and subrecipient titles seem to get confused, and I wanted to be really clear about that because I'll be using those terms throughout this presentation. Beneficiary, they're the end recipient of the funds. They are the harmed community, okay? So for the most part, they're individuals. Individuals within Saginaw, whether they're youth in a Title I school, they might be people who live in a QCT, things of that nature. The subrecipient is, for this case, a majority of the organizations that we're working with are subrecipients, which means they are a vessel that the recipient, the city, is using to serve the beneficiaries, the harmed peoples. You are not actually funding an organization. You are working with an organization to remediate harms in the community, whether that is from COVID or from other social and cultural reasons, right? Historical, that have happened in society. That's the meaning of beneficiary, that's the meaning of subrecipient. Are there any questions about that? Great. So, as I said, who is actually getting funded? ARPA funds are meant to serve that harmed community, which is the beneficiary. The subrecipient organization is not being funded per se. They are receiving funds to act on behalf of the city to serve the citizens. We are creating plans to make sure that the funds are indeed serving those citizens, right? That is the purpose of what we're doing. Sorry, Mayor, did you have a question?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, just to the previous slide, is the city the recipient or the beneficiary?
The city is the recipient.
So then the beneficiary is the possible person, organization, or group, but not the MPOs?
Right, in this case, we have not deemed the nonprofits as the beneficiaries. Now, there is one situation where we have done that, and I will get into that when we get there.
Okay.
But every other example, because you realize you've given very large sums of money. So if the organization is the beneficiary, we need to prove harm. And we need to prove harm in the case of sometimes multi-million dollars of harm, which is very hard to do when you've got an organization that maybe had a $100,000 budget. And then they got $1 million, allocation. So they are then, in that case, a subrecipient because they are serving still a harmed group of people within Saginaw. And that is how that relationship works.
And the city of Saginaw is also a beneficiary due to the lost revenue, or they're just a recipient in that?
That's a great question, and I don't want to misstate myself. Can we put lost revenue in another, don't even put it in this, it's a totally separate.
I can't.
Lost revenue is continually misunderstood.
But all folks, lost revenue, I think that's the purpose of the legislation, is that they had been harmed by COVID.
Yeah, you could say it that way, yes.
That's, the way that I perceive it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just put that in kind of my own bank.
Please continue.
All right, good deal. A lot has been asked, what is happening in these meetings? I honestly didn't think they'd become as big of a deal as they've become. So there's two parts to it. We have to assess the organization, as I said. This is a standard assessment. We've done the same assessment with every organization. We then, and this is required by 2 CFR 200 uniform guidance. We then make sure that we fully understand the project. Remember these proposals, we kept it broad. We want to make sure it was inclusive, which meant that proposals were not always as equally detailed. So some programs had very detailed budgets. Some programs had really good ideas, but didn't actually have a budget attached. Some programs that had budgets had a lot of construction costs. They needed new numbers behind those construction costs. So we need to spend some time, make sure we had a uniform approach to, do you have a good budget? Is this eligible on the line item level? And can we make sure we've got a plan to move forward? And so that was the other part. Now those two things come together, the organizational risk assessment and the program details, and that creates your monitoring plan. And that's what everyone gets in hand, which means how often are we monitoring you? How hard are we monitoring you? And what are we monitoring you against? What are the actual guidelines of this program? What's the budget that we've agreed to moving forward? And that is your subrecipient monitoring plan. Questions? Oh.
Yes, Councilman Nasser.
It's not really a question, David, but it's going to be more of a comment because you know me. There's a lot of people that are watching this right now and they don't understand CFR 200.
Yep.
So that is part of the disbursement of the federal government that actually is baked into the ARPA Act. So I
Yeah.
just want people to understand that for those that are watching at home, so that they do understand that.
Yep.
Thank you.
It's specifically all federal funds, so this is
Right.
something that the team's very familiar with for CDBG as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So, the monitoring manual. You all received the monitoring manual. This is like, think about it as this is your base document for every subrecipient that received funds has a manual. Then they all get their own monitoring plans, which reference the manual or get into the specifics the manual can't for obvious reasons, because the manual doesn't cover every program, but it is the baseline document. Important note. We had a lot of really great conversations with the subrecipient organizations. We had a really, actually wonderful process through February with all of these organizations understanding how can we work with them to make sure these programs are successful, what are their gaps, what are their weaknesses, what are their strengths, and how can we create a process that works for them. One of the things we talked about with all of them was this idea of reimbursement. Okay, that is gonna make it really hard for some of these organizations who got, as I said earlier, a huge amount of money when their normal budgets were not in proportion with the amount of money that they were allocated to. So one of the ways that we came together between administration and Guidehouse, again, after also rereading uniform guidance to go, what is exactly what the federal government points us towards? Now, the federal government says it is your choice, you just need to have a policy, which is why the city had a policy, because they had to make certain choices because of things that had happened with CDBG funds in the past. We reread that. This is right along with what the federal government does recommend, which would be at each monitoring point, the subrecipient could present a line item budget that says, this is what I'm gonna spend money on between now and my next monitoring check-in. That could be a month, that could be a quarter, depending on that risk assessment. They present that budget. There then, we vet it, we make sure that it's eligible within program guidelines. Those funds can then be advanced so that they always have cash on hand to make the purchases and investments they need to make between each monitoring checkpoint. This creates enormous amount of controls for the city to make sure everything is vetted and everything is taken care of, while also making sure the organizations are gonna have the cash on hand to properly run their programs. Are there any questions?
Yes, Councilman Copeland.
And please, I will continue to make this disclaimer. Every question that I ask, please don't take it like I'm trying to. Everyone's defensive right now, council staff, citizens, so please don't take offense to this. For clarity, with the monitoring manual, is it best practice to have a manual after meetings, or would it be best practice to have a monitoring manual prior to any meetings? So before the meeting with you, they would have been aware, just some sort of guidance beforehand.
Yes. So I would say it is best practice to have a manual ahead of time. Now, here are the reasons why we didn't have one. I will say, first of all, though it is best practice, we have worked with lots of local governments on this very thing. Most local governments do not have a very strong subrecipient monitoring manual in place because they don't do that much subrecipient monitoring, right? The smaller government. City of Detroit, they've got a system in place. They do this all the time. This is, what?
We did. Saginaw City, we did because of.
Right, you had a CDBG one specifically, right? But by being able to build the manual side by side with these monitoring check-ins, we were able to make adjustments to that manual, such as that very point there, that was responsive to the organizations and the things they needed. And so by building it side by side, it allowed us that flexibility to build a program-specific manual, not a subrecipient manual for the whole city for everything, a program-specific manual for ARPA funds that was responsive to those needs. And that's why we did it in this way. Yep.
Councilman Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. Who determines the timelines? Is it just according to the risk assessment matrix?
Yep, exactly.
And then had there been any, again, issues where people had mismanaged funds before that are getting funds that would warrant kind of either a weekly or monthly monitoring
So, yes, there are organizations. There are organizations who received high risk, low risk, and everything in between. I'll give you an example, though. The low-risk organizations, I have no pause on. I have no issues with or flags for you. They're just organizations that don't have a lot of history in federal fund, receiving federal funds. So those organizations we would meet with monthly.
Okay.
There are high-risk or low-risk organizations. We're going to be meeting with them quarterly. Okay?
And then the high would be weekly?
No, there's no weekly.
There's no high ones, okay.
That would blow through your budget.
All right, thank you.
Great. Any other questions on the monitoring manual? Okay, so this is, again, what I was sent out before. What are next steps? What are we going to then discuss next? So if, and I used high risk, I shouldn't have used it in this term because this is a different meaning of risk that needs to be articulated to city council. But if a subrecipient is deemed high risk, as is something that needs to be brought up to city council, Guidehouse is going to document that and alert that to city council. We will do that throughout this process. If something happens in 6 months, this isn't just, hey, we missed the mark on some documents, but no, we've got some stuff we can't fill in the gaps on and we can't go any further here. That's going to be brought back to you, okay? And that's what we're going to be doing today for anything that does need to be brought back. If subrecipients in this process had a program alterations that didn't follow the outline of the proposal, those also, you received memos on those, were brought back to you. Okay? And then finally, if a subrecipient cannot spend all the funds allocated by city council in an eligible way, Guidehouse again will bring that back to you. Are there any questions about that?
Yes, Councilman.
And for this process, they don't contact us, or they contact the city, they contact Guidehouse?
That's right. So Guidehouse, we're on very close conversation with administration, but the whole point is we're taking this off their desk. We're going through everything, and when things are, you gotta see this, we're gonna make sure they see it, and if you've gotta see this, we're gonna make sure you see this.
And we will have enough notice before the day of our meeting to review.
Yes, you would receive a memo, just like you received on Thursday, that outlined what was going on, and then here, so I can answer any questions.
And today, we got one today.
Well, yeah, sorry, that wasn't out, that was.
Did she have a question?
Oh, okay, yeah, I was waiting on
I'm
you to
sorry.
be noticed, that's fine.
Councilwoman Shelby.
Thank you very much. When you was talking about risk, high, low,
Yeah.
low, high, anyway, is there a system in place, or what system did you use, like a scoring system to say this is high risk, low risk? Can you-
So, yeah, absolutely. So, 2 CFR 200 says you need a system. That's all it says. So there's nothing the federal government puts out there that says, here's the system, right? It does say all the things you should be checking, and those are things that got incorporated. The one in front of you here is one that I combined from a variety of different governments that had best practices across the country. And so it's kind of a hybrid of a few major counties, a couple states, that I thought all made sense, and then we looked at it with the city and made sure it made sense with the city. So it's kind of a hybrid of a lot of other things that I thought made a lot of sense for Saginaw.
Councilman Flores.
Mayor, is this unique to Saginaw in terms of the accounts that you handle, or is this something that's more practiced in general?
What part?
The risk assessment and the monitoring.
The risk assessment and monitoring is the most important part of everything, every single ARPA client we have. So that's my answer to you. It is, we don't do anything that does not include this. This is the most important thing.
I should put it another way.
Okay.
The reimbursement approach, is that specific to Saginaw, or is
So
that?
we're not doing that. If you covered that in our monitoring plan, that's not
The
part of it.
original proposal to do so, was that specific to Saginaw?
Yes, well, no, let me think here. There are a few, I would say a majority do it, they do it according to risk. So, high-risk organizations wouldn't be eligible for advance, they'd only be, reimbursement, low risk would get advances. But it's all over the place, honestly, with the fund distribution. There's some that do 50% upfront, there's some that will do 100% upfront, which is very, very dangerous. And so it's hard to answer. Does
But
that
do
make
you-
sense?
Do you advise the account to do 100%?
Do I?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No, that would.
I'm just talking specifically of the ones that you have additional accounts with, that's all.
Yeah, no, that would be very risky. That would not be something I would ever recommend, or any auditor, or anyone with an expertise.
So what
in-
you're citing is just something that you may know secondhand.
Go ahead.
What questions you gonna ask Mr. Flores?
If you're bringing up folks that are giving 100% almost as if they're beneficiaries, I'm just asking if you do that or not. And if it's Saginaw specific to what was originally proposed, you already answered my question.
Okay.
But if it's just kind of having facts that don't necessarily have to do with what we're talking about, that's what I'm trying to ask.
No, I don't know.
So you said there's some people that do 100%. You're not one of those people.
Yeah,
Okay, but you know of people that do that.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But did you also not say you would not advise that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, key word is.
Yeah.
You would not advise.
I would not advise.
And is it, I guess I need to ask this question, because you keep talking about the risk assessment.
Mm-hmm.
Is that not, it's a standard practice
Yes.
across the board?
Yes.
And it doesn't have to do with low, high, medium. It's looking at what you can actually do within the guidelines of other guidelines, right?
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, in other words, what you put on paper is what we expect for you to do.
Yes.
And if you can't do that, then we come back and we take another look and we either rewrite it and we make it to where it fits,
Right.
or we don't just keep going
Yes.
without doing anything to correct the wrong.
Yep.
I know.
All right, so moving forward. So we have 4 organizations. I did have 5 as early as this morning, but we do have 4 organizations that are moving forward. We've finished their risk assessments. We have drafts of all their monitoring plans. We are ready to move forward pending tonight. I just wanted to make sure there were no curveballs tonight before we went ahead and made this happen. I do want to note to the beneficiary question, Big Brother, Big Sister, let me back up. When we emailed everyone, we asked them to review 2 things. One was the things we'd be asking for the risk assessment, and one was a hardship questionnaire. The hardship questionnaire was just to make sure that we didn't have an opportunity to make the entity a beneficiary, which would make it much easier because then you can create a grant and you can give them funds directly. In this case, Big Brother, Big Sister was the only organization we've got that did qualify for that. And it made a lot of sense to make them a hardship grant recipient. The reason for that is they received a small amount, so it was something we could find as a delta in their budget. They had a loss of revenues prior to going into COVID. That loss of revenues, we were able to say, hey, this hurt you this much, and that much happened to also be larger than the allocation from City Council. They also have a limited scope in programming. So it's not like they were gonna use these funds to go do something totally outside the scope of what you expect out of Big Brother, Big Sister. So that is the one kind of outlier here, and how we are kind of looking to pursue that. Any questions?
I think I might need thank you. I think I might need a little more explanation in
Yeah.
regards to that. So are you saying from the information that you have and the recipients or supposedly recipients, that Big Brothers Big Sisters is the only entity that fit in the criteria that you just said?
Yeah. It's because if you think about how much they received compared to how much a lot of these other organizations received, is a big difference. When we sit down and talk with organizations and it's like, hey, I received $1.5 million, for example, and I need to find $1.5 million in hardship on your books that I can find, and I get to 200,000, we're not even in the realm, and that's really where we were with pretty much all these, so.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. Is it a matter of reporting that they found themselves as an outlier? Like, are other nonprofits able to kind of glean on their reporting? Because with one of the nonprofits, I had saw what their appendix and their budget looks like, and it was specific and down to the detail versus maybe others weren't. Is there that type of cooperation where they're able to kind of learn off of one another?
I feel like there's a couple questions there, so, I'm not sure.
Whatever one you heard first.
I heard, is there a chance to learn from each other?
No, you need to ask the question so that he understands it. Please, Mr. Flores, if you got 3 questions in one,
I asked one question. So brothers and sisters as an outlier.
Yep.
That had a specific appendix and budget and circumstance. If you're dealing with other nonprofits that are gonna get the same either programming dollars or capital dollars.
Yep.
Do they know what Big Brother and Big Sister's reporting? So they can,
Yes, understood.
okay.
So we're getting everyone's audit, so we've got all their financials. We sit down and look through all of this, and we discuss this with every single organization when they came in the door. So any organization that we talked with was, you know, can we talk about hardship? We've got their questionnaire, so we've got at least a beginning discussion point to see if that shoe fits. So this has been a conversation we've had with every organization, and they're all, at the end of the day, have to submit, you know, audit forms on financials. So we've got the pieces of the puzzle right there.
So yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Next.
I'm trying to look down the table, so
All
they
right.
don't think I
All
ignored
right.
them.
So this brings us to any notes and alterations. And as you can see, there were a few. I did try to keep them as short and succinct to the question as possible and why is the question being risen. And then also identifying, because our job is to identify risk, right? I am not making any choices. This is obviously all city council's choices, but I am gonna articulate risk when I see it. So, taking this from the top, Boys and Girls Club, that was one brought up at the last 2 meetings ago, I believe. We had an allocation adjustment with a reasoning for that. First Ward Community Center also came forward with an allocation adjustment because of changes to their physical space over the course of the last year and how that is limiting their ability to actually do programming. And then CAC, and apologies for the last second on that. It's something we kind of worked on over the weekend, but it was spoken about today as well of the decrease in staffing and needing to get that staffing back up so that they can do their programs. And so that was the ask and adjustment there. Again, this is why the framing's so important. These are subrecipients and they're partners in serving the community. And so, you know, I think it's important to be responsive to those organizations and listen to what they're saying, and that's why we're bringing this back to you, as this is the best way they think they can serve the community. And so that's why those changes were made. Are there any questions on the changes, those 3?
Yes, Councilwoman Sylvia.
Thank you so much. What do you mean by changes? I mean, you submitted, I personally have information with the Boys and Girls Club, and I knew about CAC. But I don't know anything about the First Ward. I missed it. It probably was in here.
Sure, so I
somewhere.
can tell you a little bit about First Ward. So First Ward, when we met with them, and I'm blanking on all the numbers in my head on the different allocations, but basically, when we sat down, they said, look, we need so badly to fix this physical space. And we don't have the physical space to expand our programming, and so it just doesn't make sense right now for these programming, you know, this programming allocation, when if we had the physical space fixed up, we can expand programming through other funds, through other opportunities, but right now they're just limited, they're constrained because of the physical space limitations.
Thank you.
And in the memo, they did deliver an updated budget with updated quotes that's prioritized top to bottom on capital needs.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Yes, Councilman Oster.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. David, thank you for that, because you did lay that out for us in the memos, and it does show the change request. And the comment I want to make to you is that you and I had a long conversation about this since the last council meeting. And you've also touched on it in a couple points here tonight. And the reason why I'm going to bring this up right now is because there was a lot of buzz in the city after the last meeting. And we talked about some of these change requests and even myself. But coming back to it, it's the beneficiary. It is the American citizen that these funds are being allocated to serve. And no matter how we got to get them through to that beneficiary, there's probably going to be some changes. And so I want to say that too, to make some clarification, because I know there's a lot of people watching right now. And so thank you. I'll keep it short.
I have a question. Don't you mean Boys and Girls Club, not Big Brothers, Big Sisters? Or did we got both of them?
You got both.
Boys and Girls Club
Okay,
is, yeah, they asked.
okay,
Because I do that.
okay. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Okay. So change in fiduciary, this came up 3 times. Basically, and I'll walk through each of these. The request is that they, as an organization, do not intend to receive the funds. They intend someone else to receive the funds and to manage it for them. The NABE has a pre-existing relationship with another nonprofit. I outlined that in the memo. That nonprofit met with us. They were part of the organization, or part of the monitoring meetings. They have sent documentation. They have been vetted by both our organization, and I brought Plant Moran in for another auditor's view. There are no risks we saw with that. The only thing I will note is that the organization is not in Michigan. It is actually a California-based organization. It is a nationwide organization. The only risk I see is inability to be on the ground and actually see the program itself, because this organization will need to have a subrecipient relationship with the NABE. So think about it as subrecipient is MSC is their name, to subrecipient the NABE, and so they have to manage that accordingly. They do have a lot of resources, so clawback should be relatively easy on that one, so if there's any issues. So in terms of protecting city funds, there's low risk there. Yep.
Yes.
So in this situation, can they fly from California to be here in Saginaw to see the program?
They possibly could, but in our discussions, that wasn't on the table.
Okay, but there is a possibility.
Sure.
Same way we see you, when we ask for you, you show up in our meetings.
But I said I would, and they did not say they would.
I would ask we get clarification on that before
Sure.
we continue on saying to potential risk. Let's get clarification on whether they would commit to be a part of this process.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thank you.
Great. DARS. DARS is a for-profit entity that is looking to work with a nonprofit as their fiduciary, as it was agreed upon that nonprofits would be the ones receiving subrecipient agreements. You know, the only thing I was flagged, there are no risks involved according to, you know, my point of view. But the one thing I did want to point out is they would be the ones doing the work. So in the case of the NABE is a nonprofit. They just don't want to manage the funds. DARS is not a nonprofit. They are the ones who are going to be doing the work. And so I don't know if that changes things for city council, and that is why we are bringing it back to you. Any questions on that?
No question.
Great. URN, one of the member organizations, World Outreach Church? Campus, thank you. Will be the fiduciary on this project, and they will not create additional subrecipient agreements with the other organizations as requested. They are going to be direct payment on everything, but they will still work with all of those collaborators. The original list of collaborators has changed over the past almost year, and so we also wanted to make sure that City Council was aware of that. Again, I see no risks here. I just wanted to make sure that City Council was looped on that part, and that's all I got on that.
Yes, Councilwoman Sylvia.
So I did read this here, Can you tell me if some recipients have left Yearn? Did they add? You know, partners, I just say, this was a collaborative effort. Let me
Yeah.
get that straight. So did they add, take away? And do we have reasons why these particular entities are no longer part of this collaboration? I'd like to know that.
Okay. I can't answer that right now.
Okay.
Also, in here, in the update, you indicated who was being removed.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and it didn't have an add-on, it had removed.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, Councilman Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. If they had originally applied with listing the organizations that they were looking to work with, and then they remove one of those after they've been allocated the money, that would just be incumbent upon the city council to reconsider, correct? You wouldn't necessarily come up with your own suggestion on that.
Are you asking me for a suggestion?
No, I'm getting clarification on if we do it ourselves, or would you be
No,
someone that would give
I am letting you know, if you did nothing, we're moving forward, but you now know. So if you want to do something, this is your chance to say something.
Oh, okay. So they originally had applied for funds and listed a number of nonprofits that they were going to be working with. And if one of those is taken away, it would just be incumbent upon us to do something about it. That's all I'm
Right.
asking.
The two questions in front of you, to be really clear, is that first of all, just the allocation needs to be changed from Yearn to World Outreach Campus, because they are the fiduciaries. So we need to make sure that it's crystal clear who is receiving the funds and responsible for the funds. So that has to be changed. The other thing in front of you for consideration is, does this change your feeling about this organization because there's a different set of collaborators?
Correct. Post.
Yep.
Application. Okay, thank you.
Great. All right, final one. So Youth Development Corp. I presented in the memo, again, my job is to bring risks forward. And so, what we had there was a Department of Labor set of findings that were not yet resolved. And so we wanted to elevate that. We do recognize that this is an in-progress grant, and that these may have been remedied, but there is no proof they've been remedied. And so that is why, if you'll notice, the last line of my memo does point out that, upon waiting on a Department of Labor finding, would mitigate the risk in front of you. And so that is just, again, from strictly a risk point of view, that would be the information I'm trying to point out to you.
Yes, Councilwoman.
So what are you saying? There is a risk, but what else? I mean, a high risk. So what are you saying? Or am I missing it? I could be missing it.
Yeah, so one of the questions we asked to all organizations is, have you used federal funds and, have there been any issues, right? And so this is a report that was delivered to us because they had received federal funds, Department of Labor report with findings. Findings are, there's an issue here, hey, you need to remedy this. There could be things as simple as, and there will be findings with these subrecipients that we work with. Hey, your policy's out of date, we need to get this up to date. It doesn't mean you necessarily stop funding things. The one finding I did identify was that there does not seem to be appropriate documentation for a large sum of funds. That is the big risk with all monitoring and compliance. Again, I'm not saying that there isn't documentation. I'm just saying the Department of Labor didn't say they could find it at the time that last report was done, which I believe was like in June. There is not any new information from the Department of Labor since that report.
Yes.
So you spoke with the Department of Labor in regards to?
No. We received the official report from YDC by the Department of Labor.
So you're just, with this right here, you're just letting us know that it's high risk. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. With the information, which was very helpful, but then we have the information tonight, and I don't think you had that information. Is there a possibility that you all can have a conversation, instead of airing it out here? You all could possibly have an additional conversation and review this information we have?
I actually think I do.
Oh.
I know, I thought that at first, because I did ask I asked as recently as a few days ago, if there's anything else you've got on the Department of Labor report, that would be very helpful from March 6th. So unless there's something dated in the last 5 days, we've got it all.
Oh, sorry. Careful.
Paper towel.
That's why we don't put pop on the table. We can't have tablets.
Oh, of 2 years that I've been here. Come on, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, Mr. David.
I think that's it.
Now. And he's sitting down. Is there any more questions of Guidehouse? Yes, Councilman.
And this could possibly go for Guidehouse or our manager. Our previous meetings, a lot of the conversation was a concern about us expending money, especially when it comes down to monitoring and what we have set aside with Guidehouse. We now have a monitoring manual. Are we using any software? Have we talked how much that is, what that will look like? And if it is going to take us beyond, have we looked at community partners to assist us? And I don't want to put no more work on Mrs. Yolanda's team or anything like that, but have we looked at additional community partners that would be able to serve, volunteer in this monitoring process?
Well, I don't think they're able to give us an estimate, because I did ask David, because you won't know until you get into the monitoring program. But I think you're increasing your level of risk for the city if you start bringing in other organizations to do the monitoring that are not involved, haven't been involved in the entire process.
And don't, and
You got another one. You got one more.
And the reason why I ask that is, I am concerned about that, us expending that money. And if we are able to partner with, and of course, I'm not saying we take Guidehouse out, but would Guidehouse be able to support these organizations? And this is just from looking at other communities like ours who have community partners engaged in this process, because as of this presentation, we're just not doing something that's required by the feds. So are we too far into this to actually bring community people in to partner? Because I'm just now getting the monitoring manual. So would it be too hard for a community organization to get the manual and get an update from Guidehouse to assist them however is needed?
I don't think that Guidehouse works with other organizations. David may be able to respond to that better, but I don't know what organization you're referring to that would be qualified. If I were looking at an organization, if I were looking at another group to do monitoring, I would be looking at probably auditing and accounting firms rather than just community organizations to do this, just because those kind of organizations are required to have error and omission insurance, risk insurance, things that if you're working with them and they make an error and the city has to pay back $200,000, we go to them and say, it was your fault, you have to pay the $200,000. If you have an organization that's a volunteer, they may be able to say, sorry, we don't carry insurance. So I think that's what we'd be looking at. So firms here in the city that would be that type of auditing firm, I don't think they're doing monitoring work.
No other questions? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and David will be here, and Walter will be here till the end of the meeting.
Okay. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Our next order of business is the consent agenda.
The agenda has been available at City Hall and on the city webpage on the SGTV channel 191. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda, leaving room for exceptions.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Do we have any exceptions? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by nay.
Mayor, we are now at board, commission, committee reports.
Do we have any reports from any boards or commission? Thank you. Yes, Councilman Oster.
Just a real quick report. So we are on the Planning Commission. I just want to announce to everybody, they do meet on the fourth Tuesday of every month. They are here in the council chambers at 6 p.m. In our past meeting, we did elect a new chair, so it's John Milne, and John Milne was also a past city council member.
Any more? Yes, Councilman Copeland.
Thank you. To provide an update on the food feasibility for the food desert for ARPA, the stage one of the feasibility study was completed March 1st. We currently have the drafts, and so those are being currently evaluated. After those are evaluated and just reviewed, just make sure I'm saying it right, we will get some additional updates on stage two based on the proposals that were submitted to us. We do have some organizations that have been discussed during the feasibility study process. And so hopefully the next thing we hear back is from Guidehouse on what they provide. Thank you.
Anyone else?
One more. Had the opportunity, and I stopped into the Historic District Commission meeting over the past, their last meeting anyways, and it was interesting to see what they've done. They've done a lot of good work. I think Alec Mixter and the team are putting together more options for our residents that live in these areas. And one of the projects they were working on was an extensive color palette, so if people want to paint their home. So kind of hats off to them. And then after the meeting, we did discuss a few things, just some parliamentary procedures I think they can have to just kind of smooth things out for them. So again, hats off to our commission and some of the stuff that they're doing.
Anybody else? Madam Clerk.
Your next order of business is appointment of board, commission, and committee members.
I need a motion to approve 1 through 2, leaving room for exceptions.
So moved.
It's been moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Madam Clerk.
We are now at resolutions. We have a few of them tonight. Our first one is to approve the Community Development Block Grant Program Submission Program for year 2023, 2024.
I need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay.
Our next resolution is approve the Home Program Submission Program for year 2023, 2024.
I need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Madam Clerk.
Our third resolution is to approve the Homeless Assistant Program Emergency Solutions Grant Submission Program for year 2023, 2024.
I need a motion to adopt.
So moved. Support.
It's been moved in support. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Madam Clerk.
We are now at unfinished business. Our first item is the resolution to amend the Boys and Girls Club's $903,300 allocation from programming to capital funds. This was postponed from the last meeting.
Is there any discussion on this motion? Do I have to make the motion first? No.
It's coming back to you.
Right, it's coming back to
The
us.
motion's now before you for discussion.
So I need a motion to, yes.
So, okay. Am I asking questions or discussing at this time? 'Cause
Yes.
Yes.
okay. I just, Mayor.
Okay. Huh?
Am I asking questions or
Yes.
discussion at this time? That's what I'm looking to you. Thank you very much. In our last discussion in regards to this, the young lady, someone from, anyway, the young lady spoke about the dollars, et cetera, and moving. And it was more than just changing it from programming to capital. It was also from one building to another one. And it was said and alluded to that something went on at the facility at Stone School. I want to know what that is. I would like to know what happened that it's, I mean, you don't need to name names, et cetera, but I just want to know, you know, why, what happened, you know, it seemed, you know.
It's in the memo.
It's in the memo.
I sure didn't see it.
It's in the Guidehouse memo of what occurred there that is causing the change. It's public information, so I can read it if you want.
Would you please?
Yes. Since those submissions were nearly a year ago, the Boys and Girls Club's need has changed. The Boys and Girls Club are unable to provide a teen center as originally planned because they do not own the building, Stone Elementary School, and there is no room to expand there. Additionally, teens are no longer allowed at Stone School Elementary School because of a firearm incident during the pandemic. Prior to COVID-19, the average attendance at Stone School was 120 youth and is now at about 60 to 70 on average. Stone Elementary School still has a capacity to serve 120 young kids, but because teens are no longer allowed, the space isn't being used to its potential. Boys and Girls Club is temporarily using a room at the YMCA to continue programming for teens and is in need of a permanent location for teen programming.
Thank you very much. Missed that. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. Yes, Councilman Copeland.
And thank you for the clarification. They did share that even if they don't get the allocation for the capital, they can hire another social worker at Stone Elementary. This is something that I thought about after reading the memo regarding the YMCA and the Boys and Girls Club. That Big Brothers Big Sisters is throwing me off, but the Boys and Girls Club, how they're working together. And I don't think we allocated anything for the YMCA. And I don't want to dig deeper into this, but because they're already supporting Big Brothers Big Sisters, Boys and Girls Club, is there a possible way that some of the allocations could support the YMCA as well? Because it's going to take time, so they're still going to have to utilize the YMCA until those upgrades are made to the building if we approve it for capital. So is there a line in this that the YMCA will still be able to be supported in that? And I hope I just didn't mess up stuff, but that's the thought that came to me.
I don't think that, I don't know what the relationship is right now between the Y and the Boys and Girls Club. If they're paying, I'm gonna guess the Y is probably letting them use their facility for the team programming, but I can't say that for sure. But within this ARPA, I don't believe that they could pay the YMCA with this allocation.
Mr. David, can you answer that? Or can you look into it?
We'd have to go out of regular order of
Okay.
business. I mean, he's not
Okay,
staff.
I'm sorry. I'm about to go, I'll make a motion, we come out of regular session so I can ask this question.
Second.
I think I can
It's
read.
been
Is
moved.
it- You want it?
Yes, David, could you come up and
Okay, so through the
answer the
manager.
questions?
I guess the one thing I want to say in response to the YMCA, so if there was a rental budget, these funds could be used to pay the YMCA to rent space to run your program. So it could be done that way, but if you're saying directly to the YMCA, that would be a different allocation of funds that you'd break out somehow. And I do want to be responsive to the fact that in every single conversation, from the committee to the subcommittees here, the YMCA was removed from that conversation. And so I just think that's an important thing to respond to, that I've heard at every step of the process.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. So, I'm lost. Madam Clerk, we've done our
If
discussion.
there's any more, you're done with discussion?
Are we done with discussion on this?
I'm good.
We're done with discussion. So now we need, now we need a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember Sylvia,
No.
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bench,
Yes.
Councilmember Ostache,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Flores,
Yes.
Councilmember Copeland.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
We have 7 yes votes, 1 nay. The motion is approved. Our next item is unfinished business, and it's the consideration of the postponed motion to allocate ARPA funds to the police department in an amount of $100,000 for youth programming.
Floor is open for discussion. Yes, Councilwoman Sylvia.
After meeting with Chief Roof, they have other grants available and are receiving. So I did make that motion, but I'm not in favor of that motion anymore because they do have other dollars, several different pots of money to utilize for that.
So, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Madam Clerk, help me understand, we can actually vote for it, we just vote it down.
Yeah, you can just vote it down.
We can just vote it down. So there's a motion on the floor. Any more discussion about it? Councilman Flores, did you want to say something about this issue?
Yeah, I would just motion to table it indefinitely, but it's the same thing, right?
Just vote it down.
Yeah, we'll just vote it down. Okay, never mind. No, thank you.
Okay, hearing no more discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion is denied. Mayor, we are now at miscellaneous business.
Yes, Councilman.
Oh, I was gonna wait for you to say what you gotta
Well,
say.
you was gonna get my say it. I'm asking, is there any other motions that need to be made? Councilman Williams.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone further award of unallocated ARPA dollars by council for a period of 6 months.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion? Councilwoman Sylvia.
I don't know if this is a question or what. I'm wondering why, simply because the city manager asked us as a council to bring back that information. And he also sent out a memo in regards to that, to ask us again. And I guess myself, I don't know if anyone else did, so I did that. So I'm just wondering where this is coming from. Was this a conversation that I wasn't privy to or what? Because I did have some resolutions to disperse some of those ARPA dollars.
I'm making the motion simply because I want to be fiscally responsible, especially after the Guidehouse presentation this evening. And I think we can slow down a little bit so we can take a better look at things prior to giving out the rest of that money.
Councilman Flores.
Thank you. Is the timeline 6 months specific in terms of judgment or arbitrary in terms of pushing it back? Like, when is our next report, or how did you come to that
Councilman
conclusion?
Williams.
Our next report is 6 months from January, right?
Yeah, approximately, because the resolutions that were made for particularly the youth allocations, I think those are the ones that had the review process, were 6 months from the January meeting, so that would be this June, right? July.
So,
Yes.
I would just, well, never mind, that's all right. I'll save my thought, it's okay.
I just wanted to know where this came from because it doesn't have city manager or anything, and why, I would have liked to have been privy to this before today and the resolutions that I have by the direction of the city manager. I'd like to get some clarification on this because I don't think it's fair. I wouldn't have spent my time going back through proposals, et cetera, to look this up, to make resolutions, if this is what we were gonna come to today. I would have liked to have known about this.
You know, at the last meeting, when we allocated money out to women of color, I indicated then, well, I asked the question, how much money do we have? And we also stated that we were going to utilize Guidehouse as our person that was overseeing programs. I asked the question last meeting, where is this money coming from? Because it's gotta come from somewhere. We got a report saying that we had 800-some thousand left. Okay, and I also got a report saying what you asked for. If you spend all of the money, where is the money gonna come from to pay Guidehouse? That's my question.
Isn't Guidehouse allocated 850?
Not for the extra. They will go
extra?
up. The extra is monitoring the programs. Maybe I heard it wrong.
No, correct.
You know, maybe I heard it wrong, but we've also asked Guidehouse to give us an outline of how much it would cost, which they can't do because some groups will take more time than others. So if we sit and allocate all the money out, I just want to know, where is the money going to come from?
What money?
The money to pay Guidehouse for doing the extra work that we now put on them. They will still have some of the 850,000 left, I'm sure, but we're talking, what is it, 2 more years? 2 more years, 3 more years that they've got to keep monitoring programs. Will it get better? I pray to God that it gets better. I want whoever gets this money to get it right and have it to where you can be less of a high risk and you can keep moving.
So why wasn't this?
We have a question
Oh,
down here
shoot.
that hasn't
Yes,
spoken yet.
Councilman Copeland.
My 2 questions, just to make sure I'm clear. This motion does not affect any of the dollars that we have already allocated. So our community who we've set and allocated money, this does not pertain to them.
No.
Perfect. And then the second question is, which I'm understanding, saving some dollars just in case we go over from Guidehouse. But do we have a backup plan? Just in case we don't have those dollars. And that's where my question about who in the community, who in the surrounding community could we pull in to support us just in case we don't have that money? Because I know Mrs. Yolanda is not going to move that money just so we could pay. She handles the money of the city. But do we have any possible backup plans just in case?
I think David wants to talk.
So 2 things I'd love to just, since Guidehouse is part of this conversation. If you wait, the important part of waiting for 6 months for the very last few funds, it allows us to, A, be able to report better to you. Where are we? Where are we going budget-wise? Is there an opportunity to bring a partner in? Can we be responsive to this question? That's number 1. Number 2, I don't think it's actually all about Guidehouse. You're gonna know a lot more about these programs once we get them running.
Right.
There are programs that might do really well, and you've already allocated funds. Don't you want to get that report in 6 months and be able to have the room to respond to that? I just think, like, we want to deliver information to you, and you're not giving us a chance. You allocated funds, and now just give us a chance to do our job. And we haven't had a chance to do that. So I think that's another important caveat to all this, is you can have a process. Process has been brought up. Wait 6 months, have a new process with the remaining funds instead of just picking things. And we can bring more information to the table on that.
Councilwoman Sylvia.
Okay, I'm gonna have to say I don't appreciate the just picking, because it wasn't just picking. So I have an issue with that. Because I did look through the proposal, so maybe that was just a different way you could have said that, but that's fine, because I'm good, I can handle it. My thing is not so much that it's being brought to us to wait 6 months. My thing is my time was valuable, and I should have known about this. That's mainly my main thing, because the resolutions and the entities that I think should get ARPA dollars, they're still probably going to be the same. I just think it's a slap in the face to me that I did that, and I guess now, hindsight, I was the only one that did it, so am I the only one that didn't know about waiting the 6 months? So I just would like to have clarity, and I did go by what our city manager asked us to do.
But was not, let me say this, but was not the 6 month put on this by you guys? By the youth bill? Didn't you put that on the table, that we review stuff in 6 months, Councilman Williams?
Yes.
But that had nothing to do with when the city manager asked us to go and, if there was any other entities. I know about the 6 months. That came from the
Our
youth,
committee.
the
Right.
subcommittee that myself, Councilwoman Garcia, and Councilman Williams sat on. That's neither here nor there. That has nothing to do with this. I was told, or it was brought to the council, hey, do this and bring this back. I did that. So now, there's no argument in there, because I did that.
Okay. Councilwoman Bench.
Okay. To clarify, the city manager never directed us to give him further proposals. In fact, in the last meeting, he and the other staff cautioned us about spending any further without putting a pause on it. I think the confusion is coming from the fact that when council members continued to insist that they wanted to allocate funds further, the city manager then, wouldn't use the word direct, but told us to go ahead and send us those requests. I submitted 3 requests, and then after giving it a great deal of thought and talking to people in the community who really thought we needed to pump the brakes because we're not being fiscally responsible, I withdrew my 3 requests, and I had conversations with those agencies to let them know that I couldn't advocate any further for any expenditure of dollars, which was not a fun conversation to have, but something that people in leadership have to do. And, I again reiterated all this stuff at the last meeting when I said we should hold on, we should postpone. I think the big thing with the 6 months, in addition to being kind of time frame precedent that was set previously by the other committees, was that it will give Guidehouse the opportunity to answer our question, which is it going to cost more than the $850,000 we've already allocated, or not? And since we don't know whether it will or not, or how much it will if it does, I'm in favor of the motion. The other question I would have for my colleague is, since you are unhappy, understandably, that you put this work in and that this motion was being made and you didn't know, are any of the resolutions that you would be potentially putting forward, did any of those go through the committee? Did any of those come to us? Because 2 weeks ago, when we were talking about Boys and Girls Club, you were very adamant that that stuff come back to the committee. So I'm just trying to gain clarification on the process of deliberation with your resolutions, because you wanted the money to come back for Girls and Boys Club to the committee for deliberation, but now I don't know if your cohort group was part of these or what, so.
Okay,
Mayor, let's
I'm
stay
sorry.
on topic, 'cause the motion.
Right.
My bad.
Got a motion. So we got a motion on the floor. Any more discussion on this? Yes.
I'm not saying that I disagree, I'm gonna say this again, with the 6 months. That's not the issue. I'm saying that I should have known this before I did the work, I talked with the people, and I wasn't the only one that that had some other entities that they wanted to give dollars to. It just wasn't right. I mean, come on, let's accept that that wasn't right. I wasn't privy to this information. I wouldn't have talked to these entities, and I wouldn't have done, the homework. I'm good with the 6 months.
Councilman Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. So currently, Guidehouse has $244,862.80, which will increase after today's meeting. Yet you report monthly, and the total amount that you were given is $850,000. Would we be able to see a trend in monitoring prior than 2 quarters or 6 months?
Well, I mean, if you think about the monitoring plans, right, and some of the monitoring is gonna be quarterly. So in 6 months, I would probably have actually only met with some organizations once. Some I will be meeting with monthly. So that should start giving us a sense, and that's why I think at 6 months, I can at least give you a ballpark, you know? Does that answer your
You can
question?
give us well, I would assume that you'd be able to give us a ballpark in 3 months, because you're not meeting with people more or at 6-month periods, right? Everybody's gonna be
I hear what
met
you're
at
saying.
least
The first
quarterly.
monitoring meeting's gonna be different than the second one. And it's gonna be faster and more efficient, so.
Okay.
I mean, 6 months is relatively arbitrary. I'm gonna be able to give you a better estimate in 9 months.
And that's what I really wanted to know,
Yeah.
if it was an arbitrary number or not, so
Well,
thank you for
yeah.
answering that.
Yeah.
It
What my
wasn't a number
consider-
that came from Guidehouse,
Yeah.
just for clarification.
Correct. That, but it's helpful to have that insight. I'm
I'm
just
saying
concerned.
it could have been arbitrary. I'm not saying it was arbitrary. I wanna be very clear about my words on that.
Okay,
As far as, yeah.
well, thank you for the clarification. Real quick, before I go on, well, I do want to bring up an important point. There are still
You wanna
people
keep
that are waiting for this money, so I do take that in consideration in terms of the timeline. And then just, and we gotta stay on topic, never mind. All right, so I would be in favor, to motion to amend this to a 3-month period to revisit, but I believe 6 months is arbitrary and too long. So I motion for that.
We have another motion on the floor for 3 months versus 6 months. Did I get that right, Madam Clerk?
There's no
Yes.
second yet, so there's no discussion.
Right.
Well, I'll second it.
Yes.
Well, I'm kind of confused. Can you do 3 months? Would that be feasible for you? Can I ask that question out like that?
I mean,
I'm
I'll
sorry.
give you a number tomorrow. The longer you
I'm
wait,
just saying.
the
I'm
better
just
the
saying.
number's gonna be. I don't know how else to
Okay.
answer this. It's tricky, it's hard. We're dealing with
Okay.
individuals, unique people, unique organizations, and there's gonna be things that change.
Okay, that's
Right?
all I wanted to know.
And I can keep giving you updates. 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, I'll
Okay.
keep giving updates.
But that's more money than we be spending too, right?
Yeah, yes, that's true. Are you catching
I'm
up?
sorry, point of,
Either way it go, we gonna spend money.
No, I'm saying 3 months and then another 3 months is more than 6 months and 6 months. That's what I'm saying.
point of information, the service contract for Guidehouse says they do monthly reporting themselves to the city, which is information that I requested for the $244,862.80. That's where we got that number from. And so we would be able to look at trends.
They
that
do
would-
monthly billing, but I think the point being, what David is saying is, you probably won't see the impact for monitoring until 6 months. That's gonna give you, like he said, it's 6 months is better than a 3 month, and 9 months would be better than 6 month, but if you wanna be somewhere in line where they'll have a decent idea, then I think 6 months is probably a good number.
Before you speak, Mayor Pro Tem.
The 6-month window is simply, does this council want accurate information from the people we've hired to guide us through this process? You know, I mean, it's the same as trying to give questions to our staff in advance so they can actually provide correct information to us. It's just about the accuracy. I mean, they can tell us in 3 months that it's gonna cost you this, but if they come back in 6 and it's actually twice that, then what? So I don't think it's arbitrary. I think we need to start being fiscally responsible with this money.
Councilman Copeland.
I was just going to say, could we call for the vote?
I didn't. Oh, you wanna call for the vote?
I'll second that.
I motion to call for the vote.
Second.
It's been motion. Okay, we're going for the second motion first. On extending this for 3
No,
months.
you're voting to call the question,
Right.
and then you
You're voting
vote
on
on the
calling
amendment.
the question, because you're voting to end debate. So you gotta
Okay.
vote on that first.
Voting to call a question. I need a motion. No, I need a vote.
You need to vote.
I need a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Now,
Gonna vote on to amend for 3 months.
right, we're voting on amending the revisiting for 3 months. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay. Roll call vote.
Williams, Councilmember Williams.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Bench.
No.
Councilman Allstash.
Nay. No.
Councilmember Garcia. No. Councilmember Flores.
Yes.
Councilmember Copeland. No. Councilmember Sylvia.
No.
Mayor Moore.
No.
1 yes and 7 no. Your motion is denied to extend.
Now we will go with the 6 months, back to the original vote.
Motion, yes.
The original motion, I'm sorry, of 6 months. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion is approved.
Madam Clerk, do we have any more? That's it. Oh, Mayor Pro Tem Bench. We do need to approve all of these corrective, right? Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the ARPA allocation resolution for Community Action Center in the amount of $1,250,000 for capital expenses to $1 million for eligible capital expenses and $250,000 for eligible programming expenses with a 6-month review.
It's been motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Councilman Ostash.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to amend 2 ARPA allocation resolutions for Youth Development Corporation totaling $1,331,150 to make the award of ARPA funds contingent on Youth Development Corporation's resolving any and all issues with the U.S. Department of Labor concerning the prior award of federal funding within the next 90 days.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion?
Right here. I just want
Yes.
to make sure I know what I'm voting on. So what we have here, in some of them, it gives us a date that it was resolved. So what we're saying right now is the remaining findings in 90 days, we want this to say resolved before we allocate any money.
For the last one.
Am I on right, C? I think that's what this motion is.
Right. Yeah,
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
You're right, you're right.
Yes, that in the next 90 days, everything will be resolved and we can move forward.
Right.
Do we know if that's even possible?
That's my question.
That's my question.
It's based on the information that we receive. How that, yes. No, wait, let me see. Can I have him come up?
The
or-
city manager.
City manager.
No, there's no, I cannot answer that question. Is it possible? I don't know. Working with the federal government, my experience is you don't know.
Question.
Yes. Councilwoman.
Oh, thank you so much. Well then, I don't know if I would amend the amount of time, because if you don't know if it can be done in 90 days, why are we voting on 90 days to have that done? Could it, I mean, we gotta, don't seem fair.
We gotta go from one end to the other. Yes, Councilman Ostash.
So, Councilwoman, the reason for the 90 days is when we had issues with the fairgrounds. We extended 30 days to resolve issues, then we extended it out to 45. And I just feel
I
this,
said 30. Tim said from day one.
but anyways, so I mean, 6 months is, or 90 days is a pretty good timeline, I think, for our consultants to work with the group. It's an important group, and I'd like to see things get resolved and move forward.
Councilman Williams.
I have another question for Guidehouse. Earlier, you did say that the information that you were requesting, it's been since June for that particular.
Yeah, what's the date on the findings report you have right in front of you?
This says July 22nd of 2022.
There you go, July, sorry, yeah.
Okay, so we've had from July 22nd of 2022, and we're extending we're proposing to extend it another 90 days on top of the time that's already been there. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're just now doing a risk assessment. And that's the only reason why I'm hesitant, because we literally just did a risk assessment, and then we're gonna turn on, and this is come working with HUD on working with the fairgrounds. It takes forever and a day for them to respond. So,
Just what housing commission, you know, just what
so
housing
that's what,
commission
so
corrected.
that's the only reason why I'm a little hesitant in saying, we just told them you're high risk this month, and then we're about to tell them, and I don't think this has been really dug into. It may have been, and correct me, but now we're about to say you have 90 days to make sure. Because if we say the resolution is an agreement between Guidehouse, the city, and all of this, okay. But what it sounds like right now is we need an agreement from the Department of Labor to say something, and they need to say something in 90 days. And that's what I'm a little hesitant about.
Can I think, clarify the question in front of everyone is, you know, the risk to the city, if you were to sit on this and just keep extending it, is you've got a significant amount of funds that are not able to go into programs, right? And so, you know, potentially, maybe another way is to align it with the existing deadline you've already set for yourself with fund reallocation.
6 months.
6 months, right?
I mean, if at that point you're gonna reallocate funds, then that's when that bucket would be available, so you could give it till then, and then you're balancing the needs to spend the funds in a reasonable amount of time and trying to give as much time possible for these findings to be resolved.
So by the time it'd be a year almost that they would have had to, in order to resolve it.
Yes, Councilman Flores.
So it's just determinant upon the Department of Labor to answer.
And that's between the entity and the Department of Labor. That is not something that I look to get involved with, or the city. I think the entity and the Department of Labor, that's that grant. We're not part of that grant, and so that needs to be resolved between those two parties.
And so if we're aligning it for 90 days and there is no answer from the Department of Labor, then what would happen?
He's saying 6.
You could spend the
He just changed
funds,
it to 6.
you could claw them, unallocate them, or, you know, rescind the resolution. I mean, that's the choice in front of you. I've just delivered the information.
Under the proposed motion is amending the original resolutions to build in a contingency, and if that contingency is not fulfilled, that money is unallocated automatically.
So it's automatically then? Okay, that's what I was asking. So it wouldn't be before us, it would just be automatically allocated.
Councilwoman.
But it can be reallocated. It comes back to council for review. Goes back into a bucket.
Councilwoman Sylvia.
I'm kind of with Councilman Copeland, but I'm a little confused only because we said it was put up here 90 days. Guidehouse just said 6 months. Thank you very much for everybody's help. One thing that we do have to remember, that where this report came from, they still have time. So, like it was said, we just got this information. You just did the risk assessment. So I don't know if we have to change it or if we could, but I would rather see 6 months as opposed to 90 days. And, you know, I kind of agree with you with that one.
Yes.
I need clarification on David's comment. When you say 6 months, you say, suggesting that it would be feasible to amend this, so they have 6 months to work it out? Or are you saying that the 6 month timing makes sense with the 90 days, because 90 days from now is 6 months from when we brought the review back? I just need clarification.
I just feel like if you have already held up allocation of future funds to a future date, which as far as I understand is 6 months from today, then why remove the opportunity for them to remedy this prior to that date? Like, no one's winning. You might as well give as much time as possible.
Right.
agree.
So we just need to amend the motion.
No,
90 days.
no, we need to, we need,
6 months.
we need to, excuse me. Again, if you don't want it to pass, vote it down. Another amendment can be made, but you need to know what you're doing when you say it. Yes, Councilman.
I'll just amend my motion. I'll amend the motion from 90 days to 6 months.
Second.
It's been moved to second. Any more discussion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. I just want to make sure, so now if we adopt that motion, are we giving YDC an additional 3 months beyond the 3 months that we it's.
It's 6 months, period. It's not a plus and a plus. It's 6 months.
Okay, but we originally, in January, when we allocated these dollars, we could put a 6-month review on it. That was my understanding, what David was said, why the 90 days was recommended, because then their window of time to remedy these issues would coincide with the review of all of the other allocations we've made at the 6-month period. That's all I was trying to gain clarity for. So if we make an amendment to the motion, does YDC get an additional 3 months before they're reviewed? Does that make sense?
But they're not even, oh, sorry.
This is a separate contingency to the resolution.
Right.
I think David was saying, since you just had the prior vote to postpone any further allocations for 6 months, why not align that date?
Okay, well, that's what I was clear, thank you. I thought he meant the original motion that we made when we allocated things for review.
Yes.
My apologies.
So you
That's why
would
I
be
needed
in
clarification.
September.
Okay. Any more discussion? Yes, Councilman Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. If we were interested in getting this resolved because there's a holdup with this U.S. Department of Labor, then we would not put a timeline on it, and we would not put ourselves in a position where other applicants for ARPA that have not been awarded are now coming to a meeting 6 months from now, assuming that they may get $1.3 million due to no fault of YDC's own. So I would just motion to strike the timeline and then have this be resolved with no timeline to secure the funds for YDC.
So you're making another motion. So we got 2 motions on the floor plus a third one. But I need a second one on this third one. Do I have a second?
Could you read back the motion, ma'am?
To strike the time period?
Correct, to just have this be resolved with the U.S. Department.
Well, that's built into the rest of the original motion.
Prior to,
Right.
but without not within any
So you're
timeline.
striking out within the next 90 days or the 6 months.
Correct.
That's what you're striking out. Yeah.
But I need a second.
Right.
Okay, I need a second. Do I have a second? Going once. Do I have a second? Going twice.
You don't have to. You don't have one.
Okay, I don't have a second, so that motion is dead. Now, we're gonna call for the vote. And the vote was the second vote.
The amendment.
The amendment was to change it from 90 to 6 months. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, answer by nay. Okay, now I gotta go back to the original vote.
Yes.
All those in favor of a 90-day,
6 months.
6 months.
Because you amended the main motion, so the main motion now reads for the 6 months time period.
Oh, I still thought I was on the 90-day. Okay, cool. Okay, that's it. Okay, so all those in favor of changing this amendment to 6 months, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Okay, do we understand what the motion was,
Right.
everyone?
Right.
Too late if we don't.
Bill's main motion, it was to amend the 2 ARPA resolutions for Youth Development Corporation totaling for $1,331,150, to make the award of ARPA funds contingent on youth development corporations resolving any and all issues with the U.S. Department of Labor concerning the prior award of federal funds within the next 6 months.
So everybody understands what we just did, right? So I don't want you to come back and say, I don't understand. I'm confused. It's real plain. 6 months. Yes, Councilwoman. I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem.
That's all right. Are we ready for another motion?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I would like to make a motion to amend the ARPA allocation resolution for First Ward Community Center in the amount of $450,000 from programming to eligible capital expenses.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. So we still have,
I make a motion to amend the 2 ARPA allocation resolutions for the NABE totaling $2,399,550 to replace references to the NABE within Moving Strategy Center for the benefit of and as fiduciary for the NABE.
Second.
it's been moved in second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay.
I make a motion to amend the 2 ARPA allocation resolutions for YEARN totaling $2,166 to replace references to YEARN or Youth Employment and Recreation Network with World Outreach Campus.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any more discussion? All those in, I'm sorry, yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Apologies if I don't know, with Yearn, which nonprofit or entity was excluded after the application?
It's in your memo. It was Parishioners on Patrol and the Mexican Council.
And the reason for those two to be excluded?
No comment. I don't have any information.
Oh, well, I'd postpone the vote until we get further clarification on that. So I motion to postpone this until the next meeting.
To change the reference?
Needs a second for his postponing it until the next meeting. I need a second. We don't have a second. We're going forward with the motion. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. We got one more. The DARE program.
DARS.
Yeah, no, it's the DARE. The DARS.
I need clarification, please. We have to motion in second to get clarification? Okay. Sorry, never mind.
What are you saying?
Nothing.
Point of information, can she make a point of information?
She wants
She doesn't know what I have to say.
No, are you asking me a question, Councilman Ben, or
I don't
Pro
know.
Tem?
She started off, that's why I said, what'd you say?
Oh,
I think my question would be for David, but if we need to make a motion in a second on that, I don't know. There's no motion.
Okay,
There's-
yeah,
we're
we
not.
need a
Okay, it's fine.
motion for
I know,
questions.
so if nobody's making a motion, my question is done.
Okay, so we have made all the motions or all of the resolutions but one. All of the motions but one. So I guess it is being tabled because it was part, I'm asking.
There's nothing being
Nothing to
tabled.
table.
there's
So,
nothing
okay.
before council right now.
Okay, so there's nothing else before council. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, second, yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you so much, young people.